Continuing from the last episode, I had just broken up with the campus belle when unexpectedly her mom, Julie, started hassling me. I figured she was out for revenge on behalf of her daughter, but surprise, instead, she dragged me straight to the registry office and we got hitched. That same night, I found myself officially becoming the stepdad of the campus belle. What's more shocking, that night was Julie's first time. Turns out, the campus belle was just her adopted daughter. Now, here I am, staring at the aloof ex-girlfriend of the campus belle. With a smirk I say to her, "Come on, sweetie, call me daddy." Continuing from the previous part. So, picking up from where I left off, after Julie and I left the car dealership, we headed to the mall. This mall was partly owned by Julie. In fact, she was the majority shareholder. The moment Julie stepped into the mall, every guy's head turned. You could practically hear the sound of women around slapping their men for staring. Seeing this scene, I felt pretty pleased with myself. Then, this enthusiastic store assistant pipes up, "Madam, welcome. Come right in. We've got tons of new arrivals in store." Julie replies, "Today's not about me shopping for clothes. It's for my husband here." At the mention of husband, the store assistant's jaw nearly hits the floor. Then she looks at me, probably thinking, "This guy's so young. Yet he's achieved something most people his age only dream of." So jealous. In no time, Julie picks out a bunch of clothes for me to try on. "Sweetie, why don't you try these on first?" she says. I nod and head into the fitting room. When I come out, not just Julie, but every woman in the store is checking me out. It's like I'm some kind of magnet. Julie licks her lips, then turns to the store assistant and says, "Pack them all up, put them in my car." As we step out of the store, Julie can feel the stares intensifying. "Darling, I'm feeling a little unhappy right now," she says. I look at Julie with confusion and ask, "What's wrong?" "Jealous," Julie says, "because you're too charming. I'm afraid one day you won't want me anymore." Turning around, I grab Julie's hand and say, "You're being silly. How could you even think that? Meeting you is my luck. Your presence makes my ordinary life full of sunshine. I could never not want you." Julie looks up, seeing the tears glistening in my eyes, and at that moment, she knows she's worth it. "Honey, I love you," she says. Julie immediately rushes into my arms. But just when everything seemed perfect, someone had to come and ruin the moment. A man in a suit stands nearby, mocking, "Julie, is this your new young boyfriend?" Julie's eyes show a hint of disgust. Curiously, I ask Julie, "Who's this guy?" Julie replies, "He's Scott, the heir to the S Corporation. He used to pursue me, so you can say he's one of my admirers." Scott, seeing that his previous remarks didn't catch Julie's attention, continues, "You bitch, I pursued you for so long, and you suddenly marry this guy. He's young and virile, able to satisfy you. Huh?" Hearing this, Julie's face darkens. She warns him, "Scott, watch your language." But Scott turns to me, sneering, "Kid, still happy about hooking up with a rich woman? When you're older, she'll just toss you aside." Scott's words are harsh, and soon, people start gathering to watch the drama unfold. Julie trembles with anger. Stepping forward, I shield Julie behind me and look at Scott, then point to his crotch, saying, "You, at such a young age, already suffering from premature ejaculation and even some erectile dysfunction. Oh, you have no idea how you got those." This statement shocks the onlookers, and Scott's face turns embarrassed. He's been experiencing those symptoms lately, even after consulting many doctors, who said it's incurable. Furious, Scott retorts, "Kid, what nonsense are you spouting? You're the one with premature ejaculation." I mock, "Whether you have it or not, you know best." Scott, angry, says, "Kid, I'm going to teach you a lesson today." With that, he gestures and a few bodyguards behind him start walking towards me. Seeing these burly men approaching, Julie warns urgently, "What are you doing? I warn you, think about the consequences of laying a hand on us." Scott's face darkens. After all, he knows Julie's power. The S Corporation can't withstand her revenge. After a moment's thought, he says, "If anything happens, it's on me. Teach this kid a lesson." I give Julie a reassuring look, saying, "It's okay. Watch your husband perform. I'm quite skilled." Julie looks worried but nods, stepping aside, ready to intervene if needed. And as I face the thugs around me, a faint smile appears on my face. I gesture with my index finger, scanning the crowd, and say, "Come on, don't keep my wife waiting." Scott, still seeing someone unafraid of him for the first time, angrily says, "Don't be afraid. As long as nobody dies, even if they're crippled, it's no big deal." Hearing Scott's words, the thugs all show fierce expressions. Then, someone roars and throws a punch at me. I simply duck and use a finger to hit a pressure point on the attacker's body. In an instant, his face turns pale. He trembles all over, even starts foaming at the mouth nervously. "What did you do?" I glance at the guy lying on the ground and shrug. Next moment, I'm in front of another guy, punching him in the face. He flies several meters and crashes heavily to the ground. Julie, standing aside, is wide-eyed. She always thought I was just an ordinary college student. She never expected I could fight like this. The thugs across from me are also starting to fear me. They want to run, but I keep knocking them down one after another. After dealing with them, my gaze falls on Scott. Meeting my eyes, Scott swallows nervously. "Kevin, let me remind you, don't mess around. We're in a rule of law society." I smirk. "Really? Is it lawful to gather a group to fight here?" With that, I raise my foot and kick Scott several meters away. Turning to Julie, I say, "Sweetheart, the pests are dealt with. Let's go." Julie smiles faintly, linking her arm with mine, and we leave together. Watching them leave, Scott finally gets up from the ground, his face twisted with anger. At this moment, someone suddenly appears in front of Scott and slaps him hard across the face. Scott looks at the man and says, "Big bro, why did you hit me?" "That guy named Kevin." Before Scott can finish, the man slaps him again, saying, "Every day. All you know is causing trouble for me." This man is Steven, Scott's brother, and the current chairman of the S Corporation. He's staring at his brother with anger and says, "Do you know who he is?" Scott, feeling wronged, says, "Kevin, he's just a college student, isn't he? What's the big deal? Does he have some other identity?" Steven sighs. He's also the largest shareholder of Peach Group, owning 50.5% of the shares. As soon as these words come out, Scott collapses to the ground, tears streaming down his cheeks. Peach Group is an existence they can only look up to. Meanwhile, Julie and I continue strolling through the mall. Julie asks, "Honey, how are you so amazing?" Curious, she looks at me, thinking of the cool fighting scene earlier. Her heart pounding with excitement, I scratch my head, smiling. Maybe I'm not that strong. They're just too weak. Although Julie is the closest person to me now, I still don't want to easily reveal all my strength. Being a kept man is my goal. Continuing, Julie takes me to the rooftop restaurant. Curiously, I ask, "Darling, as the largest shareholder here, do you own many of the shops too?" Julie smiles faintly and says, "I own 60% of the restaurants on this floor." Hearing this, I can't help but clap my hands. My rich wife really is amazing. We arrive at a more private upscale restaurant. After ordering, Julie suddenly looks at me with a dreamy expression and says, "There are no cameras here, so anything you want to do is fine." I nearly choke on my water. "Sweetheart, was this restaurant specifically prepared for such things?" I look around and have to admit, the soundproofing here is really top-notch. Julie doesn't say anything. She looks a bit pouty and I shyly smile. "Got it, darling." As I say this, I approach Julie and wrap my arms around her. Julie then climbs onto my lap. Suddenly, the Live Off a Woman system appears, detecting that the host is enjoying intense affection and grants the host God-level medical skills and God-level driving skills. After dinner, we both have a bit of a blush on our faces, and Julie's clothes are a bit disheveled. After a while, Julie takes out her phone and says, "The transfer of the car is done. Let's go pick it up now." Hearing this, my eyes light up. Back at the dealership, Gloria looks at us and raises an eyebrow. "In just this short time, did you two manage to?" Seeing through us, Julie's face flushes with embarrassment, but she doesn't deny it. Gloria chuckles and shakes her head. "You two are quite bold. I even heard about the fight in the mall. Messing with the Scott family?" Julie retorts, "If they want to deal with me, they should first see what they're capable of." Gloria doesn't say more, handing over a list, then gesturing to the cars outside. Gloria sighs, "You're taking away so many cars. I won't have many left." Julie smiles and signs the list. Gloria continues, "You two take 2 cars, and I'll arrange for the rest to be sent back to you." Julie smiles and links arms with me, saying, "I want to ride with my husband in 1 car." At this point, Gloria's head is filled with black lines. She doesn't want to deal with these two anymore. She waves her hand, saying, "Hurry up and leave. Seeing you two makes my blood pressure rise." Julie bursts into laughter happily. Then Julie and I get into a convertible Lamborghini. At this moment, someone discontentedly says, "Why do they get to test drive? Why do we have to wait in line?" Gloria turns around and says, "Because they've bought this car. Not just this one. They've bought all the cars in the showroom." The person is shocked. Many people take out their phones and capture our images. After all, casually spending tens of millions to buy cars isn't something ordinary people can do. It's definitely the act of someone wealthy or powerful. I in the car. I think about the God-level driving skills the system just rewarded me. I smile slightly, step on the gas, and manipulate the steering wheel. The car accelerates dramatically, taking an exaggerated arc as it speeds away. Onlookers envy us, saying, "This is so cool. Who would have thought? This guy is rich, handsome, and has such good driving skills. Which girl wouldn't like him?" In no time, I'm driving a supercar with Julie's video, uploaded to YouTube, and it even trends on Google search. In a university dorm room, Julie's daughter, Lily, the campus belle, has just finished her course design and sees this video. When she sees the woman in the video, Lily's mouth drops open in astonishment. "Oh my God, isn't this my mom? My mom is trending? And is this my stepfather?" She keeps zooming in on the screen, trying to see the person sitting in the driver's seat, but due to the shooting angle, even zoomed in, it's not clear. For some reason, Lily feels a bit familiar with the man. Meanwhile, Julie, sitting in the sports car, is surprised. She didn't expect my driving skills to be this good. When the car stops at the doorstep, she still feels a bit lingering. I smile and say, "Darling, when we have time later, I'll take you for a proper drive." As soon as we enter the villa, we collapse onto the sofa. Julie cuddles into my arms, and I smirk. "Darling, are you thinking about something more exciting again?" Julie buries her head in my chest and falls asleep not long after. After all that happened today, she's really exhausted. Seeing Julie sleeping peacefully, a small smile of happiness appears on my face. I've dreamt of this scene many times before, and now it's finally real. I have to admit, even though Julie is already 36 years old this year, she still looks incredibly beautiful, without a single wrinkle on her face. The next morning, as I walk out of the room after waking up, I see a scene that makes my blood boil. Julie, dressed in a very cool and sexy outfit, is making breakfast in the kitchen. When she sees me, a smile appears on Julie's face, and she says, "Darling, come and eat quickly." I glance at the table. It seems Julie is cooking, but she doesn't have much talent in this area. Julie smiles and says, "Come on, try it." Seeing Julie's excited look, I smile and then pick up a piece of burnt toast and eat it, showing a satisfied expression and praise, "My wife's cooking is really good." Julie is delighted and says, "Then I'll make a few more dishes." As soon as I hear this, I quickly grab Julie's hand and say, "How can I let you cook? I should be the one cooking for you." In no time, I come out with a tray of food and say, "I'll eat what you cooked, and you eat what I cooked. Let's share." I say this and take a big bite of the oatmeal porridge Julie made. I didn't expect someone to make oatmeal porridge taste so bad, but I still smile and swallow it. Julie happily picks up a piece of bread she just baked and takes a bite. A few seconds later, she quietly throws away the bread she made into the trash, saying, "It seems I'm not cut out for cooking." I console her, "I'll cook from now on, and you just need to be beautiful." Julie's smile becomes even brighter. At this moment, the voice of my "live off a woman" system rings again, detecting that my beloved is emotionally moved by me and rewards me with 3 days of future vision. I pause, wondering if it's some kind of ability to see the future. After finishing the meal, I take Julie to the game room inside the villa and say, "Darling, you asked me before what I like to do in college, right? Well, I loved playing League of Legends. I open the game. Julie says, "Wow, I've never played this before. Is it difficult?" I smile and say, "I can teach you." For Julie, as long as she's with me, she'll be happy no matter what we do. However, I have to admit, Julie does have a talent for gaming. Regardless of which hero she plays, as long as she watches a master's operation once and then plays it herself, she can execute very smooth moves. After playing for a while, I'm also surprised by my current skills. It seems like this game has become a lot simpler. It seems like it's all thanks to the abilities the system has given me. At that moment, I failed to notice something. My phone, tossed aside, suddenly lit up with an unfamiliar caller, but with my headphones on, I didn't hear it. Meanwhile, outside the villa gate, Scott anxiously said to Steven, "Big bro, why isn't Kevin picking up the phone?" Steven, annoyed, retorted, "Why wouldn't he? Probably doesn't want to talk to you." Scott panicked. If Kevin is really mad and does something to S-Corp, we're all screwed. After a moment of thought, Steven replied, "If that's the case, I'll have to come up with a plan." Scott looked puzzled. Our villa had tight security measures. A security guard patrolling noticed a person kneeling in front of a villa and asked, "Hey, what are you doing?" It was Scott, shirtless with a few gold bars strapped to his back, kneeling at the villa entrance. The guard warned, "I'm telling you, don't cause trouble, or I'll kick you out." Scott remained silent, partly because of the scorching weather, rendering him speechless, and partly because his actions were embarrassing. Meanwhile, Steven handed $100 to the guard, saying, "He's my brother, made a mistake, wants to apologize." Glancing at the money, the guard remarked, "Just one bill? We've got so many brothers. How's this gonna work?" Without hesitation, Steven pulled out a stack of cash from his wallet. Inside the villa, Julie and I had been playing games all day. Julie exclaimed, "These games are so much fun. No wonder you love them." I replied, "These games have been with me for 4 years. When my roommates went home for the holidays, I was left alone in the dorm, so I played these games." The atmosphere suddenly became heavy as we touched on this topic. Julie realized her mistake and vowed to comfort me. I hugged Julie, saying, "Darling, I'm a bit hungry. Let's go grab something to eat." Julie nodded. As we drove out, we spotted someone kneeling at the gate. I wondered, why is the guard letting a beggar stay here? Steven, seeing our car, hurried over, abandoning his watermelon. "Hey there, Kevin," he exclaimed. "I'm Steven. My brother Scott offended you at the mall yesterday. Today, we've come to apologize." I responded calmly, "Now that you mention it, I do recall yesterday's incident, but I don't care anymore. No need to say more." Steven quickly intervened, "No, we messed up. We've prepared a small gift as compensation for you and Julie." He then took out an exquisite gift box and placed it in the car. Ignoring him, I continued, "I've already forgotten about that incident, but I'm curious, who instigated him against me?" Steven admitted, "It was actually Johnson, the heir of J Corporation. We were just being foolish." I responded, "All right, I understand, but you should take the gift back. We don't need it." Upon hearing this, Steven looked embarrassed. Then, he kicked Scott and said, "He doesn't plan to forgive you. Today, you'll kneel here until Kevin forgives you." I hurriedly intervened, "Don't beat people to death in front of my house. I still need to live here." Hearing my plea, Steven stopped, then looked at me ingratiatingly. "Kevin, please accept our gift and forgive us." I glanced at Steven helplessly and said, "Fine, I'll take the gift, but you can't keep hitting people. And by the way, what I said about your brother having premature ejaculation and impotence issues wasn't a lie." With that, Julie and I ignored Steven and drove away. Scott asked, "Big bro, did Kevin forgive me?" Steven replied, "This matter is definitely not that simple." Then, Steven focused on Scott's legs. Feeling uneasy under Steven's gaze, Scott pleaded, "Big bro, what are you going to do? I'm your own brother. Don't hit me anymore." But no matter how Scott pleaded, it couldn't stop Steven's actions. Julie and I arrived at a fancy restaurant. Julie said, "You can order whatever you want. Today, it's my treat." I raised an eyebrow and said, "What if I want to have my wife?" Julie chuckled, "You want me? Well, you'll have to eat first to have the energy." With Julie's teasing, I felt great and just wanted to finish dinner and go home. Back home, Julie suddenly suggested, "Darling, how about we sleep in the yard tonight?" I was taken aback, but understood Julie's implication. "You naughty thing, didn't expect you to like playing this." Julie blushed and buried her head in my chest. "I just want to experience some excitement with you." But in the yard, any slightly louder noise would be heard by others. Seeing Julie endure, I felt sorry for her and soon brought her back into the house. After another intimate moment together, we fell asleep. When we woke up, it was already 8 a.m. the next day. After a simple breakfast, we started another day of gaming. Just as we began playing, Julie's phone rang. After answering it, she wore a serious expression and then said, "All right, I'll head over now." After hanging up, Julie looked apologetic as she turned to me and said, "Sorry, dear, there's a sudden meeting at work. We have a collaboration with a corporation this time." I smiled and replied, "No problem at all. Business comes first, and seeing my wife being so outstanding makes me happy. Go focus on your work. I've got your back." Julie's face lit up again. "Thank you, dear. I'll call the driver to pick me up." I said, "No need for that trouble. I'll drive you." Julie asked, "Honey, aren't you worried about being seen by the public?" I was puzzled. Why should I be afraid of being seen? Julie explained, "I mean, aren't you worried about being called a kept man?" I laughed. Let them joke. If having a wife turns me into a kept man, they can only dream about it. Then, we drove towards the company. Julie's office was located on the busiest street, with a magnificent 50-story building. I couldn't help but be amazed. "Is this all your achievement, dear? You're amazing." Julie happily replied, "Of course. This is the career I've built for us." As we arrived at the company's entrance, Julie smiled and said, "Let's go, my husband. I'll show you around my company." The nearby security guard, hearing Julie call me her husband, looked as surprised as if he could fit an egg in his mouth. This news quickly spread through WhatsApp, and soon the entire company's employees knew. Waves of employees gathered, discussing, "Does the chairwoman have a husband? Wasn't she always single? Who's the lucky guy? He doesn't need to work for the rest of his life." As Julie and I entered the office area of the building, the entire place fell silent, with everyone gaping. Julie didn't say much and simply held my hand as we left. Once we were gone, the office erupted in noise. "The chairwoman's husband is so handsome. He's overly handsome, isn't he? I want money too. I want a boyfriend like him, who's as clingy as a puppy." Soon, we arrived at Julie's office. Seeing her impressive workspace, I couldn't resist sitting in her chair. Julie chuckled, "You're the first one bold enough to sit there." Soon, a woman entered and said, "Chair, the meeting will start in 10 minutes. Should we get ready?" Julie nodded and introduced, "This is my husband, Kevin, and this is my secretary, Nancy." I smiled at Nancy and then focused my attention back on Julie's computer. Realizing I was Julie's husband, Nancy was also surprised. In her impression, Julie was the kind of superwoman who wouldn't get married. Seeing Nancy's disbelief, Julie couldn't help but feel pleased and said, "Let's go now, Nancy. Take my husband for a tour of our company later." Nancy nodded and followed Julie out of the office. After they left, I leaned back in the chair and couldn't help but yawn, and then the system sound chimed again. "Congratulations, host. A fund interest of 5 million yuan has been credited. Due to the total fund exceeding 50 million yuan, the system has automatically upgraded and gifted the host with the formula for women's underwear structure." I was momentarily stunned. The system was really good to me. This reminded me that the system also gave me 3 days of future sight. So, I shouted, "Activate the future sight for the next 3 days. I want to see what major events will happen." Activating the future sight for the next 3 days in the host city. In the next second, I saw major events that might happen in the East China Sea in the next 3 days. The chairman of B Corporation drove recklessly, injuring a pedestrian and paying 2 million in compensation. Seeing this, I nearly choked on my saliva. Indeed, safety first while driving, or you might lose 2 million just like that. I continued to scroll down. There were signs of abandonment in the Sea International real estate project, leading to loss of life. I'd heard of Sea International before. It was a recently popular real estate project, If the owners knew it might be abandoned, that would be interesting. The first two messages didn't concern me much, but the third message shocked me. The new product jointly developed by D Corporation and a corporation was exposed to have quality issues, facing huge compensation payments. D Corporation would also have to pay billions in breach of contract penalties. Seeing this message, I was instantly shocked. D Corporation was Julie's blood, and the huge compensation. How much money would that be? I suddenly remembered that Nancy had just mentioned going to a meeting with a corporation. Was it happening right now? I immediately stood up, ready to go to the conference room. Just as Nancy returned from outside, I quickly said, "Where's the conference room? Take me there quickly. I have something important to discuss with my wife." In the conference room, Julie was negotiating with representatives from a corporation. A man in his 30s, named Eddie, looked puzzled as he gazed at Julie. He was the one who connected a corporation and D Corporation. He said, "Chairwoman, I think a corporation's terms are already quite good. What are you hesitating about?" Julie was torn. D Corporation hadn't had any breakthroughs for too long, and this collaboration was an opportunity. But the negotiation terms weren't very favorable for the company. After much contemplation, she reluctantly said, "If it really can't be helped." Just then, I pushed open the door to the conference room and shouted loudly, "If it really can't be helped, then give up this collaboration." The sudden appearance of my voice stunned everyone, and seeing a stranger, they were all puzzled. I looked solemnly at Julie and said, "There are quality issues with this batch of products. A corporation can't be trusted." Before Julie could respond, Eddie stood up and said, "Who are you? How did you get in here? Where are the security guards? Get this guy out of here." Ignoring his protests, I simply gazed quietly at Julie, as if asking, "Do you trust me?" Finally, Julie nodded and said, "Darling, I trust you. Stop the collaboration with a corporation immediately." At this, the room fell silent. Everyone was shocked by Julie's decision and also by her endearment towards me. Seeing the stunned silence, Julie smiled slightly and then turned to the representatives from a corporation. "Sorry, but D Corporation won't be collaborating with your company anymore." After the representatives from a corporation left with sour faces, Julie addressed the remaining people in the conference room. "I know you're all puzzled, but I trust my instincts. We'll find a new partner for cooperation." Seeing everyone's troubled expressions, I couldn't help but ask, "Why are you all in such a bind? Isn't developing products on your own a viable option?" Julie sighed helplessly. "The company lacks good formulas and technical personnel, so the products we develop always have flaws, and the market response isn't great." A smile crept onto my face. "What if I could provide you with technology for women's underwear construction? Would that ease your immediate concerns?" Upon hearing this, everyone looked at me with curiosity, especially Julie, whose eyes lit up. "Definitely. What we lack most now is technology." Then, I produced a document from seemingly nowhere, and Julie immediately arranged for technicians to test it. Shortly after, the technical supervisor's excited voice came through the phone. Instantly, everyone in the conference room showed signs of relief and joy. Back in Julie's office, as soon as we entered, Julie hugged me and gave me a kiss, saying, "Darling, you're amazing. You're my lucky charm. You've solved so many problems for me just by being here." I smiled and replied, "Taking care of my wife's worries, isn't that what I should do?" Julie smirked mischievously. "Then tonight, I'll reward you. I'll take good care of you." Raising an eyebrow, I asked, "And how do you plan to take care of me?" Julie leaned in close to my ear and whispered softly, "I bought some Japanese-style schoolgirl outfits and black stockings, made of very thin material. Hee hee." Hearing this, I almost couldn't help but do something right there in the office, but I resisted. After all, I could do whatever I wanted at home later. That night, Julie, rocking a JK and black stockings, and I stayed up all night discussing the origins of humanity. A few days later, early in the morning when it was just getting light, Julie was awakened by the sound of her phone. Later, she went out. With nothing else to do, I finished my meal and started playing games. Around noon, the phone suddenly rang. It was Julie calling, and I immediately answered. Excitedly, Julie's voice came through the phone. "Darling, you're amazing. The lingerie craftsmanship you provided has resulted in perfect lingerie. Even during the trial period, many people have chosen to pre-order. Hearing this, a smile spread across my face. I hadn't expected the system's offerings to be so effective. I genuinely praised the system in my mind. With a smirk, I replied to Julie over the phone, "It's the least I could do. It's my honor to ease my wife's burden." On the other end of the line, Julie's mood was clearly very good. She said, "Darling, tonight I'm going to reward you properly." Hearing these familiar words again, I raised a curious eyebrow and asked, "How are you going to reward me?" Julie said, "I bought some sexy lingerie today. It's in the bedside cabinet. Do you want to take a look?" I chuckled and said, "I'll keep the mystery alive." Late at night, in the villa next door, a middle-aged woman kicked the man beside her and said, "Listen to the neighbor. Look at yourself. You're such a useless man." The man said, "If I were 10 years younger, I'd definitely be more impressive than him." The woman scorned, "Did I not know you when you were younger? What's the difference now?" However, at that moment, neither I nor Julie had any idea that we had already affected the harmony of the neighboring family. Then, the moment I feared most arrived. My school's beauty ex-girlfriend Lily was coming back. Despite having rehearsed many times in my mind, I still wasn't prepared to face Lily. "What's wrong?" Julie teased, seeing how nervous I was. "Hey, it's the first time I've seen this expression on your face. What are you afraid of, little buddy?" I sighed helplessly, feeling a bitter smile forming. There were some things between Lily and me. It's just that the outcome wasn't very perfect. This piqued Julie's curiosity, as she already knew about my acquaintance with Lily. She hadn't expected there was still something she didn't know. After a moment's thought, I shook my head with a smile and said, "Forget it. It's nothing. It's just how things are." Seeing that I didn't want to talk about it, Julie didn't press further. She wasn't the type to pry. The next morning, I drove to the airport, preparing to pick up Lily. Throughout the journey, I was unsure of my feelings. Remembering how Lily looked in her white dress back then still deeply moved me. If that incident hadn't happened, maybe we would still be together. Back to the present, I hadn't ended up with her, but rather with her mother. If Lily found out about this, would she want to kill me? Soon, I arrived at the airport. Among the crowd, a figure in white caught my eye. Lily still loved wearing white dresses. As she walked through the crowd, all eyes were on her. After she came out, many people wanted to offer her a ride. A woman like her, even if someone offered to drive her home for free, it would be worth it. A man approached Lily, saying, "Beauty, are you alone? Where do you live? Let me take you home." As he spoke, he fiddled with his BMW car keys. Lily didn't say anything, just turned her head away. The man persisted, "How about we go grab a coffee?" Just as Lily was thinking about how to refuse and worried the man would continue bothering her, she suddenly saw me. She was surprised. "Kevin, what are you doing here?" But then her eyes lit up and she quickly walked over to me, holding my arm. "Darling, why did you just arrive?" I was momentarily stunned, then understood what was happening. I gently touched Lily's head, but this feeling made me feel a bit melancholic. It was the same feeling from before, suddenly making me develop strong feelings for Lily again, even though I couldn't go back to that time. Seeing my appearance, the man who had approached Lily earlier had a strange tone. "Dude, you're lucky. You found such a beautiful girlfriend." I didn't say anything, intending to take Lily away. However, the man still persisted. "Girl, let me remind you, find a boyfriend who is successful in his career. Don't just go for looks and waste your youth." Listening to this, I stopped in my tracks and then turned to look at the man. "You're absolutely right. What's the name of the company you work for again?" "Oh, it's a real estate group, right?" As soon as I mentioned my industry, the man's face showed confidence. I smirked and dialed a number on my phone. "Hello, there's a company called a real estate group. Let's withdraw all our investments." The man thought I was talking nonsense, looking disdainful. Just as he was about to retort, his phone rang. The voice on the other end said, "Manager, it's bad news. Peach Group has withdrawn all their investments. What should we do?" As soon as this was said, the man was stunned, sitting down on the ground, covered in cold sweat. At tea that moment, I arrived at the spot where the car was parked with Lily. She said, "Kevin, thank you just now. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know how to get rid of him. I smiled faintly, then pointed to the car. Let's get in. I'm here to pick you up for your mother. Hearing this, Lily looked surprised. She looked me up and down and said, You actually work at my mom's company. I smiled slightly, not answering. After Lily got into the car, she leaned back in her seat and turned to me. For some reason, this time she saw me. She felt I was different from before, though she couldn't quite put her finger on it. It was like I was more handsome and charismatic now. Remembering back to our university days, I was the only one who could make her feel that way. But she didn't expect that even after graduation, seeing me again could still make her heart flutter. Lily looked away and whispered, Kevin, do you ever regret the choices you made back then? I thought about it. If I were to say I regretted it, I didn't really have any regrets. After all, that incident made me see how much of a gap there was between us. Seeing me not responding, Lily continued, If you hadn't done that back then, maybe you'd be my mom's son-in-law by now. But instead of being a son-in-law, you've become a driver. I didn't answer her words, unsure of what expression Lily would have if she knew my identity. Lily continued, I'm still curious why you didn't trust me back then. Am I really not worth your trust? I kept my eyes on the road, thinking for a long time, but still didn't say anything. Lily whispered, Forget it. You're still the same as before, unwilling to talk about anything. After driving for a while, Lily suddenly said, I haven't seen my mom drive this car before. Is it new? I replied, You'll find out when we get home. There are a lot of new things at home. After saying this, I added in my mind, Even your dad is new. The car sped along, and soon we arrived at the villa. Lily looked surprised. Is my mom living here? Kevin, where are you taking me? I replied, Didn't your mom move? This is it. At that moment, the security guard at the gate saw me and immediately bowed respectfully, greeting me. Mr. Kevin is back. Lily smiled at me, feeling proud to have my mom's power behind you, aren't you? I didn't say anything, just focused on driving. Soon, we arrived at the villa where her mom and I lived. Lily looked puzzled, walked up to the door, and was about to ring the doorbell. I went straight to the door and used facial recognition to unlock it, then turned to Lily. My princess, please come in. Watching my actions, Lily felt a sense of unease in her heart. She stared at me blankly for a long time without moving. I didn't say anything. This was something she should have known a long time ago. After a while, Lily's face lit up with a smile again. Then she walked into the villa, saying, Mom, I'm back? Julie, who heard the voice, walked out of the room. When she saw Lily, a joyful smile appeared on her face. Lily directly threw herself into Julie's arms, saying, Mom, I missed you so much. Then she smiled and asked, By the way, Mom, where's the dad you found for me? Even though she seemed to have an answer in her heart, Lily still wanted to find another answer. Julie was momentarily stunned. Then her gaze shifted to me not far away. I stood with my hands in my pockets, having imagined countless times scenes like this happening. Now that it was really happening, I felt surprisingly calm. Noticing Julie's gaze, Lily stiffly turned her head in my direction and said, Mom, stop kidding. I want to see where Dad is. Kevin, didn't you say you're my mom's driver? It's impossible. This can't be true. You're both lying to me, you jerk. Get out of my house. I stood still, not moving, just quietly watching the hysterical Lily. Lily grabbed a nearby glass and threw it at me. I quickly dodged, thinking to myself that if I hadn't been agile, I would have been done for this point. Julie was also alarmed and scolded loudly, Lily, calm down. This snapped Lily out of her anger. She turned to Julie, disbelief in her eyes. Tears streaming down her face, Lily cried out, This can't be true. You're all lying to me. Then she turned and ran out of the house. Seeing Lily like this, Julie frowned and said, What's wrong with Lily? Julie had anticipated that this would be hard for Lily to accept, but she hadn't expected her reaction to be so extreme. I walked up to Julie, giving her a gentle hug, and said, Don't worry, dear. Leave it to me. Then I turned and went to chase after Lily. Julie stood there sighing. It seemed like this was something only Kevin could handle. When would Lily truly accept Kevin as her father? Instead of going back to school, Lily stayed at a hotel. It was one of Julie's properties, so Lily didn't have to pay to stay there. As Lily sat on the bed, she grew angrier the more she thought about it. That jerk Kevin. I actually thought he had changed for the better, but he treated me like this. He makes me so angry. Her anger grew, and without realizing it, she fell asleep. When Lily woke up, it was pitch black around her. A sense of loneliness spread over her. She looked at the time. It was already 9 p.m. Normally, she would be chatting with her mom about what had happened during this time. It's all Kevin's fault, that jerk. Just thinking about him makes me so angry. Then she got up and left the hotel. Lily walked aimlessly on the streets, feeling completely drained. Suddenly, she saw a bar. Thinking about what had happened today, she decided to go in and drown her sorrows in alcohol. However, being as attractive as Lily was, as soon as she entered the bar, she immediately attracted the attention of a group of unscrupulous men. Almost the entire bar was eyeing her. Lily just ordered a few drinks casually. The lecherous men around her didn't make any moves, waiting for Lily to drink too much. Lily drank one glass after another, all the while cursing me. I wonder what he really feels about me now. After finishing her curses, she downed another big glass of liquor. However, the alcohol's effect immediately hit her brain, and she felt dizzy and disoriented. The lecherous men in the bar immediately became excited, discussing, "We're so lucky to meet such a beautiful girl today. What a catch." Lily, already blurry-minded, muttered to herself, "Can't drink anymore. Gotta go back." However, just as she tried to stand up, she lost her balance. Seeing this, the lecherous men around her smirked, ready to make a move. But I, who had been following Lily all along, was already in the bar. Seeing this, I quickly stepped forward to support Lily, sighing, "You're so unsettling." Facing the sudden appearance of me, the lecherous men around were displeased. "Hey kid, where did you come from? We've been waiting for the girl for so long. Isn't it inappropriate for you to do this?" Immediately, one of them walked up to me and grabbed my clothes. I glanced at him indifferently, then grabbed his wrist and pushed him away. The next moment, he screamed as he flew backward. I surveyed the bar patrons with sharp eyes and then took Lily away. The men behind me were still stunned, their expressions full of fear. I brought Lily back to the hotel we had just left. "You better get some sleep," I said. Before I could finish my sentence, Lily vomited all over herself. Feeling helpless, I sighed. "You're a princess, and I'm actually nothing." I sighed again and began to clean up Lily's mess. As I looked at the vomit on her clothes, I felt conflicted. I picked up my phone and told Julie about the situation. With Julie's permission, I hung up the phone and approached Lily to help her undress. It was summer, so Lily only had one layer of clothing left. As I looked at her fair skin, I couldn't help but swallow hard. For a moment, I felt a confusing impulse to teach her about sex love. But soon, I regained my senses and suppressed that evil urge. The next morning, I was awakened by a scream. Lily was yelling, "You pervert! What did you do to me? You deceived my mom, and now you want me to? I'm calling the police." She then threw a pillow at me. This snapped me out of my daze. Lily was wrapped in a blanket, tears in her eyes as she glared at me. "Kevin, so you're this kind of pervert. I misjudged you. I'll let my mom know what kind of person you really are." I couldn't help but speak up. "Shut up and listen to me. You got drunk at the bar last night. If I hadn't brought you back, who knows how many men would have been around you when you woke up this morning. And I didn't touch you. Your clothes are gone because you vomited all over yourself, and I washed them. From now on, if you want to drink, buy alcohol and drink it at home." Lily stood there, stunned. Somehow, deep down, she knew I wouldn't harm her. I sighed and said, "I'll go get you breakfast. Get dressed." As I left, Lily watched me, her heart in turmoil. After a while, I returned with breakfast. "It's all your favorites," I said. Lily was surprised that I still remembered her preferences. She hesitated and said, "Don't think that just because you're being nice to me, I'll forgive you." They started to eat breakfast together. After dinner, I walked up to Lily and said, "You know when your mom and I first met?" Lily gave me a glare and said, "You jerk, isn't it just to get back at me?" I continued, It was 10 years ago when I met your mom. I was 14 then, and she was 26. Hearing this, Lily's mouth dropped open in surprise. I went on, remember when I told you before? I always had someone in my heart. Back then, I thought you were great, but you weren't what I was looking for. When I saw Julie again, that's when I truly found what I was searching for. Lily listened silently, feeling the sincerity in my words, but for her, it was still a hard truth to accept. I told her, let's head home. Your mom's waiting for you there. And then I got up and left the room. Leaving Lily alone to contemplate, she soon emerged from the hotel, and we both returned home together, home. Julie had just finished cooking breakfast, waiting for us to return. Seeing the burnt offerings on the table, Lily and I froze, then simultaneously said, we already ate out. Julie shook her head regretfully. You already ate? What a waste. Then Julie grabbed her bag, getting ready for work, and I quickly followed her to the office. Lily sat down on the couch, feeling exhausted from the hangover. Her phone rang. It was her good friend Nikki. Excitedly, Nikki asked, how's it going? How's your dad? Lily replied, good looking, fit, and treats my mom well. He's a graduate from a prestigious university. Hearing Lily's words, Nikki cheered, wow, sounds like you're pretty satisfied. Lily's face turned bitter. I'm not satisfied. I feel awful. Perplexed, Nikki asked, are you worried he'll have another child and compete for the inheritance? Lily sighed, if only it were that simple, I wouldn't feel this bad. Nikki pressed, what's really going on? Tell me. Lily explained, you know this person. We've both met him. It's Kevin. Nikki let out a shocked scream. What? Why Kevin? Lily briefly recounted what had happened. Nikki, now knowing the whole story, exclaimed, I was already feeling a bit sorry for you two breaking up, but now, not long after, he's become your dad? That's just unbelievable. It's like something out of a Sunshine novel, where lovers end up as father and daughter. It's too dramatic. Lily sighed, don't even bother me. My head's about to explode. Kevin talked to me a lot this morning, and now I don't know what to do. Nikki asked, so, do you actually want Kevin to be your dad? Lily replied firmly, of course not. Nikki's face lit up mischievously. Well, if that's the case, there's another way. They had a secretive conversation, leaving Lily stunned. Really? Are you sure? Nikki nodded. Since Kevin fooled your mom, can't we do something sneaky too? Lily's face hardened with determination. Then Nikki teased, Lily, didn't you say Kevin got handsome? You didn't fall for him, did you? Blushing, Lily abruptly hung up the phone. Later that night, Julie was in the bedroom, applying a face mask and watching TV. Lily approached Julie's bed and said coyly, Mom, can I sleep with you tonight? Julie gently rubbed Lily's head. Sure, we can sleep together. Blushing, Lily asked, where will Kevin sleep? Julie thought for a moment and pointed to the carpet. Let's make him sleep on the floor tonight. Lily's face turned even redder. Thinking about her plan, I yawned as I entered the room and ushered Lily out. Lily retorted, this is my house, my mom's room. I'll sleep wherever I want. Facing Lily's challenge, I said, this is my wife, and I'm sleeping on this bed. No one can kick me out. Lily huffed, well, you can't kick me out either. And then lay down next to her mom. I didn't back down either, lying down on the other side of my wife, thinking, thankfully, this bed's big enough for three. Julie, resigned, lay between us. I then cheekily kissed my wife in front of Lily. When I went for a big smooch, Lily was shocked and tried to hit me, but her mom pushed her away, saying, I've raised you all by myself. Can't I enjoy some man's company now? She then resumed kissing me. With a smirk, I told Lily, don't worry, your turn's coming up. Besides, you two aren't biologically related, so there's no moral dilemma here. Lily was lying next to Julie, a mischievous smile creeping up on her face. Mom, have you and Kevin ever done that thing? Julie didn't know how to answer right away. She just smiled, not saying a word. Meanwhile, I felt a bit uncomfortable, so I made an excuse, saying I wasn't tired, and decided to go play some games. Lily kept talking quietly with Julie. After a while, hearing Julie's steady breathing, Lily quietly slid off the bed. She tiptoed over, quietly closed the door, and then headed back to her own room. In her room, She picked out a sexy nightgown, then made her way to the gaming room where I was. It was already pretty late, and I yawned, ready to go to bed. Just then, there was a noise outside the door. I looked over, confused, and saw the door slowly open, a graceful figure stepping into my view. Her body was curvy, and just looking at her made it hard to look away. On top of that, her stunning face was enough to make anyone lose their mind. But for me, that was definitely not a good thing. I froze for a moment, then quickly snapped out of it, asking in confusion, "What are you doing here in the middle of the night?" Lily, seeing my reaction, stepped into the room, locked the door behind her, and softly said, "What do you think I'm here for, Kevin?" Even though Lily was 20, she'd never really tried to seduce a man. I'd heard some stories from my roommates, but when it came down to it, she was still a bit shy to actually go through with it. As Lily walked toward me, I couldn't help but swallow, but I already understood her intentions. "I'm telling you, this isn't going to work. No matter what, I'm not giving in. You might as well give up. Kevin, am I not good looking? Am I not as pretty as Mom?" Lily stopped right in front of me and gently placed her hand on my chest. But as soon as she did that, I stepped back, keeping my distance. "Sorry, you are beautiful, even on par with Julie. But my heart only has room for your mom, so you can forget it." Seeing my response, Lily didn't try to be patient anymore. She lunged at me, but I quickly sidestepped, and Lily missed, tumbling onto the bed. As Lily tried to get up, I quickly placed my hand on the back of her neck, and she immediately passed out. Looking at Lily lying on the bed, I suddenly thought that carrying her out right now might not be a good idea. What if I ran into Julie? I'd have a lot of explaining to do. With that thought, I sighed in resignation and decided to go to another room. Luckily, there were plenty of rooms in the villa, so I could easily find one to crash in for the night. Just then, Lily's phone suddenly rang. Normally, I don't snoop through other people's phones, but when I saw the name of the sender, I couldn't stay calm. Nikki. I immediately thought of Nikki, the one I play games with every night. After a moment's hesitation, I decided to pick up Lily's phone. The phone had a password, but unlocking it was a breeze for me. In no time, I got into the phone and opened the chat history between Lily and Nikki. When I saw their conversation, it felt like I had discovered something shocking. My God, do girls really talk like this? I swallowed hard, glancing at the door, then kept scrolling through their messages. The chat history between them was truly jaw-dropping. Even I had to admire their guts. Then I saw how Nikki was advising Lily on how to deal with me. I tossed Julie's phone aside and lay back down, drifting off to sleep. The next morning, a scream woke me up. I walked out of the room and saw Lily, disheveled, running out of my gaming room. What happened? What's going on? Julie looked at Lily, confused. Lily suddenly collapsed into Julie's arms, her face full of distress. "Mom, Kevin, that guy, last night he did that thing to me." When she said that, Julie looked almost in disbelief but turned her gaze toward me. I shrugged, signaling I had no idea what happened. "Lily, what are you saying? Why are you saying this?" Lily was at a loss for words, not knowing how to explain. I woke up in Kevin's room this morning, and just look at me." Julie looked her over. Lily was dressed very scantily, and even the slightest movement could expose her sensitive areas. "Why were you dressed like this in Kevin's room?" Julie's question was the key one. Lily was suddenly speechless, unsure how to answer. But then she burst into tears. "Mom, you don't love me. I've been hurt, and you're blaming me first." Seeing Lily like this, Julie didn't seem interested in asking any more questions. She turned to look at me, as if silently saying, "You'd better explain yourself." I helplessly looked at Julie and said, "I swear you saw I was sleeping in this room, right? I didn't do anything." Julie frowned. She didn't want to take sides in whatever happened between the two of us. "All right, let's just check the surveillance footage." So the three of us pulled up the footage. In the video, we saw Lily wearing a sexy nightgown, coming to the door of my room. Not long after, I ran out of the room, and then never returned. I quickly spoke up. "Did you see that? It was less than 3 minutes. You know, every time it's at least 30 minutes, right? 3 minutes is an insult." "Look, Lily, I know it's hard for you to accept Kevin, but I'm not forcing you to. And we've been keeping our distance in front of you because we didn't want to make you uncomfortable. So what's this about now? Are you trying to smear Kevin and make me lose faith in him so I'd kick him out? I'll make it clear, I love Kevin, and there's no way I'm leaving him for the rest of my life. If you can't accept it, that's great. If not, you'll have to get used to it." This was the first time Julie spoke so sternly to Lily. Lily was shocked, standing there, frozen, not knowing what to do. Julie seemed to realize she had been too harsh but knew there was no other way to deal with the situation. She snorted coldly, stood up, and left the room. After Julie left, I looked at Lily, shook my head, and sighed. How does it feel to mess up and end up worse off? I told you, stop trying to do bad things. You. Kevin, you bastard. It's all because of you that Mom yelled at me. She never yells at me. Lily shouted, tears welling up in her eyes. I quietly watched her, and after a long pause, I shook my head and softly said, Julie loves you. You know that, but you can't take advantage of her love to act recklessly. All she wants is for us to get along. And what you're doing now. Sighed. I wasn't going to waste any more words on Lily, shook my head, and turned to leave. The room was left with only Lily, silently upset. Wait a minute, when did this guy get to lecture me? Lily suddenly remembered this, as if her sadness had disappeared, and she rushed to my room. What now? Seeing Lily approach, I said irritably, You bad girl, you still dare to lecture me? I smiled faintly, glanced at my phone, then said, Not going to lecture you. That handsome guy you mentioned, good body, good at work? Still sneaking a peek at boy stuff? As soon as I said that, Lily's face immediately changed. She rushed forward, trying to grab my phone. But there was no way I'd let her succeed. I quickly spun my body and dodged. Hold on, I don't think this content is suitable for you. Maybe Julie should take a look. No, you don't. Kevin, please don't show her. Lily panicked, knowing if her mom saw these messages, it would be over. I glanced at her indifferently and asked, Why not let her look? Lily swallowed hard, her face twisted with frustration. She had dug up so much dirt on Kevin, so why did she still feel so powerless? How did you unlock my phone password? She stammered. I smirked. Unlocking your phone? Piece of cake. You jerk. What do you even want? Julie glared at me, her eyes burning with rage. If she weren't outmatched, she'd have torn me to pieces by now. But I just chuckled, saying nothing, and kept scrolling through the chat history. Kevin, if you delete those chats, I'll let you stay here, Lily blurted out. Let me. Since when do I need your permission to stay? I shot her a look. Julie's on my side now, got it? You're such a scumbag. Fine, what do you want to delete the chats? Lily's voice trembled. I glanced at her, a playful grin spreading across my face. That sexy lingerie you wore last night, it looked really good on you. You know, my words made Lily blush instantly. She had bought that lingerie ages ago and barely ever wore it. Last night was just a desperate attempt to seduce me. Normally, she'd never be caught dead in something like that in front of a guy. The design was way too embarrassing. But I was curious. I stood up and slowly walked over to her, leaning down until my lips were close to her ear. My voice dropped to a whisper, warm and teasing. I don't think you'd want your mom to find out about this, would you? Seeing my expression, Lily's unease grew. I'm warning you, my mom's home. Don't you dare try anything, she said, swallowing hard. There's no way I'm wearing that again. My gaze deepened, carrying an intensity that was hard to resist. I leaned in closer, my breath brushing against her ear, hot and unsettling. My voice was low, dripping with suggestion. That lingerie from last night. I can't get it out of my head, Lily. Lily's heart raced, her cheeks burning like fire. She wanted to step back, but her legs felt glued to the floor, refusing to move. My hand slowly rose, brushing lightly over her shoulder, my fingertips tracing her skin like we carried an electric current, sending shivers down her spine. Don't, my mom's still home, Lily stammered, her voice trembling. She tried to stay composed, but the intensity in my gaze left her defenseless. She swallowed hard, attempting to pull away, but I grabbed her wrist, pulling her firmly into my arms. Relax, Lily, I murmured, my lips close to her ear, my breath warm and damp. Don't worry, I won't go too far. But you didn't wear that just for me, did you? Lily froze, her eyes dropping in embarrassment. She knew her intentions hadn't been pure when she put on that lingerie last night. Deep down, she wanted to catch my attention, but having it thrown back in her face like this made her wish she could disappear. I seemed to read her thoughts, my fingers gently tilting her chin up, forcing her to meet my eyes. Don't hide, Lily. I know you're not as innocent as you pretend to be, right? Lily's breathing grew shallow, her body locked in my grip, unable to break free. She felt suffocated, overwhelmed by the pressure, yet undeniably drawn to me. That dangerous, irresistible pull left her powerless to resist. I thought for a moment, then flashed a mischievous grin. Let's just say, before, I was just your average jerk. Now, I'm a full-blown super jerk. With that, I pointed to my legs. Reluctantly, Lily knelt down and started massaging them, her face a mix of anger and humiliation. Having Lily kneel down and massage my legs. Who'll believe it if I posted this online? I teased. Honestly, if this scene were captured in a photo, it'd probably break a lot of guys' hearts. You're such a jerk, gloating like this after taking advantage of me, Lily muttered. I don't like that word. How about you call me Dad instead? That made Lily shoot to her feet, glaring at me with fury. Kevin, you've gone too far. I've put up with everything else, but this? Seriously, your mom and I are already married. Why can't I be your dad? I replied calmly. Or is it that you've never even considered accepting me as your father? And don't you think your mom will be heartbroken if she knew how you're acting right now? That hit a nerve. Lily didn't say another word, just knelt back down and continued massaging my legs. Still not going to call me that? I asked. Lily stayed silent, her head bowed. I stood up abruptly, pushing Lily down into the chair instead. What are you doing? Kevin, you jerk, what are you? I told you, I don't like that word. You need to change it up. With that, I raised my hand and brought it down on Lily's backside with a sharp smack. I didn't hold back, and the force left her feeling a stinging numbness. Kevin, you're such a jerk, she yelled, her voice trembling. Still saying it? Looks like I've been too soft on you. I chuckled, completely unfazed by her defiance, and raised my hand again. Another smack landed, and Lily bit her lip, refusing to cry out. It was like she was trying to prove something, to me, or maybe to herself. Seems like I've been too soft on you, I sneered, raising my hand again. Smack, smack. 2 sharp slaps landed, and Lily could feel her backside swelling almost instantly. If she had to guess, her butt was definitely red and sore now. Call me Daddy. I'm sure you don't want your mom finding out about this, do you? I said, pulling out my phone again with a smirk. See, Lily? Right now, I'm the one in control. Not you. Lily stared at the phone in my hand, her mind racing. Calling Kevin Daddy? That was beyond humiliating. But what choice did she have? The tension in the room was thick, but I just chuckled lightly, breaking the silence. All right, how about this? You call me Daddy, and I'll let you delete some of the chat history. Deal. After what felt like an eternity, Lily finally nodded, and I released her. Standing there, she glared at me, realizing just how despicable I was. I actually thought about asking Mom to give him a raise back then. How could I have been so stupid? She thought, her anger simmering just beneath the surface. But she didn't dare let it show. What's wrong? Is it really that hard? I taunted, placing the phone on the table and opening the chat interface. The screen was filled with messages between Lily and Nikki. Lily took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. She repeated in her mind, "It's just one word, Lily. Just one word. You can do this." Finally, she opened her eyes, looked at me, and then lowered her head, muttering, "Daddy, what was that?" I didn't quite catch it, I said, cupping my hand to my ear and leaning closer, pretending not to hear. Seeing my smug gesture, Lily was practically fuming, but she bit down her anger and shouted at the top of her lungs, "Dad." Her voice was so loud it could have shaken the walls, and honestly, I couldn't have been more pleased. "Lily, what did you just call me? Did you just call Kevin Dad?" But before I could savor the moment, a voice came from behind Lily. Lily turned around, her face pale with panic, only to see her mom standing there. "No, Ma." She was completely tongue-tied, caught in a mess she couldn't explain. Julie stepped forward and hugged Lily, her face lit up with excitement. "This is amazing. Just amazing. Lily, you finally accepted Kevin. This is such a relief. But what made you change your mind all of a sudden? Did something happen between you two?" Lily shot me a desperate look, silently pleading for help. But I acted like I didn't even see her, casually turning my gaze elsewhere. This jerk. I'm going to kill him, she thought, her mind racing with 1,000 ways to make me pay. But on the surface, she forced a smile. Mom, I just thought, if things kept going the way we were, it would only make things harder for you. I've grown up now, and I know what's right and wrong. I understand you. And Kevin's been nice to me. I don't have any issues with him anymore. Lily sighed, unsure how she even managed to say those words. Just then, Julie noticed the phone lying nearby. Whose phone is this? The moment she brought it up, I sprang into action, snatching the phone away before she could get a closer look. Oh, this? It's just something I'm using to upgrade our home security system. You know, better safe than sorry, I said casually, brushing off Julie's question. Thankfully, Julie didn't seem suspicious. In fact, seeing Lily and me getting along so peacefully made her genuinely happy. By the way, Kevin, today's the big day for C Group and B Group's product launch. Julie reminded me, her tone shifting to something more serious. At the mention of this, My expression turned grim. AON Group, with its strong technical capabilities, had already released their new product a full 7 days ahead of D Group. As for D Group, even with everyone working overtime, we could only manage to launch a day or two earlier. There was nothing I could do about that reality. "All right, let's head to the company later and finalize everything," I said, my voice steady. Julie nodded and then turned to leave the room. Once she was gone, I turned to Lily with a mischievous grin. Well, my dear daughter. Come here, let Daddy give you a hug." You. Lily started, but she bit back the words she wanted to say. "Give me the phone. I need to delete some chat records," she demanded instead. I didn't argue and handed the phone over to her. Lily sighed in frustration. She even considered deleting everything, but she knew it was pointless. I obviously had backups, and there was no way she could wipe it all clean. Why did I have to chat so much? "Ugh, I hate this so much," she muttered under her breath, her face the mix of annoyance and helplessness. Lily sighed deeply. If only she had been more diligent about deleting her chat records, maybe she wouldn't be in this mess now. "Ugh, look at this. One slip up, and now I'm stuck dealing with you. What a dummy I am," she muttered to herself, half joking but mostly frustrated. Then, with a forced smile, she walked up behind me and placed her hands on my shoulders. "Don't worry, Dad, I'll take good care of you," she said sweetly, her tone dripping with sarcasm. But before I could react, her grip tightened, and the sudden pain made me jump to my feet. Lily shot me a glare, then turned and walked away without another word. With Julie busy handling the company's affairs, she didn't have much time to keep an eye on me. So I took full advantage of the situation to torture our little princess at home. "Do you really have to make me wear this? It's so embarrassing," Lily complained, her face flushed red as she looked down at the outfit I'd picked out for her. She was dressed in a maid costume, one of those overly provocative ones. It was the kind of thing she'd only ever seen in secret online, never bought, and certainly never worn. Now here she was standing next to me with a tray in her hands, holding 2 drinks. I had basically turned her into my personal maid, and she was not happy about it. You didn't know I could just tell Mom about this, right?" She put a stop to it real quick, Lily threatened, her voice shaking with a mix of anger and humiliation. "Go ahead, tell her. There are cameras everywhere. I haven't done anything wrong, just made you wear a maid outfit. What's the big deal? Is it illegal to wear a maid costume now? Or is it a crime for me to look at you? There are plenty of pretty girls out on the street. Am I not allowed to look at them either?" I rolled my eyes, completely unfazed by her threat. Lily's frustration only grew, but there was nothing she could do. For now, she was stuck playing the role I'd assigned her. "You're such a jerk and a real scumbag." Lily was so pissed she could barely keep it together, but she chose to just put up with it. After playing around for a bit, I shut the computer down, yawned, and walked out of the room. "Finally, it's over," I heard Lily let out a long sigh of relief. But just when she thought I was done with her, she heard me say, "All right, go change. I've got something ready for you. We're heading out." Hearing this, Lily's head went blank. She had no idea what I was up to now. By the time we stepped out on the street, Lily was wearing a tight-fitting cheapao. The weather had gotten pretty hot, and with the tight dress and black stockings, she definitely turned a lot of heads. On top of that, Lily's jaw-dropping looks made everyone stare. Some even started to envy me. This guy, seriously, how did he end up with such a gorgeous girl? Why don't I have this kind of luck? Why? Well, I mean, the dude's good-looking too, don't you think? People were chatting away, but Lily's face was flushed bright red with embarrassment. Lily tried her best to stay calm, but the redness on her face was impossible to hide. She instinctively covered her thighs with her hand, trying to hide the black stockings, but only made things worse, drawing even more attention to her awkwardness. I stood beside her, grinning with pride, as if I were showing off the stunning beauty at my side. The smile on my lips suggested I was quite pleased with the gossip swirling around us. "Stop trying to cover up," I whispered in Lily's ear, my voice teasing. "You're just making it worse, drawing even more attention." Lily gritted her teeth, struggling to keep her temper in check, but the humiliation of being the center of attention was unbearable. She shot me a glare and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Kevin, what do you think you're doing? Are you trying to embarrass me by making me wear this?" I raised an eyebrow, shrugging carelessly. "No, you're so beautiful, people are just envious of you." I paused for a second, then added, "Besides, this outfit was carefully chosen for you. Doesn't it look great?" Lily froze for a moment, a strange feeling stirring in her chest. Although she was furious, she couldn't deny that my words had made her waver. The cheapao was tight, but it hugged her curves perfectly, showcasing her elegance and sensuality in just the right way. It had certainly drawn countless envious glances. But all the stares made Lily feel completely embarrassed. She struggled to suppress the irritation bubbling inside her while quickly trying to keep pace with me. In a low voice, she threatened, "You better have a good explanation, or I swear I won't let you off the hook." The grin on my face widened, my eyes glinting with an unreadable hint of mystery. "Don't worry, things are about to get even more interesting." Hearing that, Lily's heart sank with a sense of unease, but she had no choice but to keep walking along with me. This was the first time she'd ever worn black stockings in public, especially in such an embarrassing outfit. We reached a shopping mall, and when Lily saw it, she frowned. This was the same mall where we had our first date. Back then, I didn't have much money, but I still spent all of my savings, not wanting Lily, such a lady, to be with someone who couldn't afford to buy anything. But that night, I ended up spending nothing. Lily paid for everything. Returning to this place now, Lily couldn't help but chuckle and said, "So, are you trying to relive the old days? Or do you think breaking up with me back then was a mistake?" I gave a small smile. "What are you talking about? I just want to buy something." With that, I led Lily into the mall. It was a fairly upscale shopping mall, but there were lots of students inside, as it didn't cost much just to browse. After all, what could students afford to buy? But the moment Lily and I appeared, we instantly caught the attention of a lot of people. For college students, it's natural to steal a glance at a beautiful girl. But when they saw a handsome guy, they couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Some even pulled out their phones, wanting to take a sneaky video. However, when they tried to send the video, they kept getting a send failed message. And when they looked for the video again, it had mysteriously vanished. After fiddling with my phone, I slipped it back into my pocket. Then I led Lily into a luxury store. "So what? You want to buy a necklace?" Seeing all the beautiful necklaces on display, even Lily couldn't help but feel a little excited. At that moment, a saleswoman approached us and kindly asked, "Hello, may I help you with anything? Can you help her find a nice necklace?" "It should be pretty, price doesn't matter," I said. Lily looked at me, clearly confused. "What are you doing?" I shrugged casually. "Well, you already called me Dad. Doesn't that mean Dad should get you a little gift?" At my words, Lily immediately wore an expression of disdain. "If I wanted a necklace, my mom would definitely buy me one. I don't need you to." I shook my head, not saying anything, just sitting quietly and waiting. But even though she said that, Lily couldn't hide her excitement. After all, in the past, there had been boys who gave her gifts. But it seemed like only I could make Lily feel this way. "Lily, why are you getting so worked up? Kevin is just being a jerk. He's definitely up to no good. Didn't you see how he treated you today? What's going on with you?" But when she thought about it, Kevin hadn't really done anything too outrageous to her. He slapped my butt, but that was because I've been calling him a jerk. He made me wear that outfit, but nothing actually showed. Thinking about it, even Lily couldn't convince herself otherwise. She looked at me, wondering if maybe Kevin had his own intentions. However, accepting Kevin wasn't exactly an easy thing. Just as Lily and I were picking out a necklace, two figures walked by not far from us. "Hey, look who it is. Isn't that Kevin? Wow, and Lily too. Looking so good, so sexy. Is this for my benefit?" At the sound of the voices, both of us turned toward them. To our surprise, it was none other than Scott. When I saw him, I couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. After all, everything that happened back then was because of him. He even tried to break me and Julie up, but luckily Julie and I were close enough to get through it. "So, what's Scott plotting today?" Scott didn't answer me. Instead, he turned to Lily. "You must be Lily, right? I'm your mom's good friend, Scott." Although Lily had never met Scott, she had heard about him, especially his attempt to pursue her mom, which had become quite the public gossip. "Hello." Because of everything that had happened, Lily wasn't too fond of Scott. But out of politeness, she still greeted him. "Julie is so beautiful, and Lily, you're even more stunning." Scott's compliments seemed endless, leaving both Julie and me feeling confused. "Scott, what exactly do you want?" "If there's nothing, we're leaving." "What do I want?" "It's simple. I want to pursue Lily." At those words, both Lily and I raised our eyebrows. "What do you mean by that?" "Kevin, you and Julie are close, so I won't get in your way." "But Lily, you can't stop me, right?" Hearing Scott say this and seeing his smirk, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I then turned to look at Lily. I thought Lily would immediately turn him down, but instead, she just smiled. "Well, if you want to pursue me, you'd better show some sincerity." "Sincerity, of course I have." As he spoke, Scott pulled out a ring from his pocket. "This is a ring made by the famous Nylon Master, a gift for Lily." Lily glanced at me, then snorted, taking the ring. I couldn't help but frown. But I also knew that Lily was deliberately trying to provoke me. What Lily didn't know was that Scott wasn't the kind of guy she should be getting involved with. If only she had seen through him. I thought about it for a moment and decided not to stop her anymore. Sometimes it's better to let her figure things out on her own. Seeing Lily take the rings, Scott, with a gentlemanly gesture, asked, "Lily, would you do me the honor of going on a date with me?" If it had been before, Lily would have definitely refused. But now, to spite me, Lily nodded and followed Scott out. Watching them leave, I didn't say anything. I just yawned and prepared to leave as well. On my way home, I suddenly saw a man running towards me. Behind him, a woman shouted, "Thief, catch him." When the man heard the woman shout, his pace quickened significantly. Seeing him heading my way, I couldn't help but smile. I was already in a bad mood, and this guy seemed like a perfect opportunity to vent. Just as I was about to take action, a figure suddenly rushed past me. A person kicked the man in the chest, then followed up with another kick straight to his face. The man was sent flying and landed on the ground. However, it was clear that the kick didn't do much damage. The man got back up, groggily reaching for a knife from his pocket. Seeing the knife, the crowd around quickly backed away. But the man's gaze was fixed on the woman who had appeared. "Damn it, you bitch, I'll teach you to mind your own business." With those words, the man charged toward her. Although the woman had some combat training, facing an armed thug, especially one like this man who seemed reckless, with a whole different story. After a few exchanges, the woman was kicked back a step. Just as the man was about to stab her with a knife, a figure grabbed his wrist. The man's face changed, and as he tried to resist, he suddenly screamed in pain. In that instant, it felt as though his wrist was being squeezed in a vice. "Let go of me, you bastard. What the hell are you doing?" I looked at him coolly, applying even more pressure with my hand. The man, writhing in pain, collapsed to his knees, his whole body trembling. Seeing that he could no longer hold out, I kicked him hard in the stomach. The kick sent him flying to the ground. The woman quickly moved in, restraining the man, and then dialed the police. After taking care of that, the crowd around started clapping. I walked over to the woman. "Didn't expect that from you. You really know how to handle yourself." The woman was none other than Audrey, the police chief's daughter and a rising star in the entertainment industry. At that moment, my phone suddenly rang. I glanced at it and then furrowed my brows. What's going on? Seeing me like this, Audrey also felt something was off. I didn't say anything and just stood up to leave. Realizing something wasn't right, Audrey quickly followed me. As I walked out of the mall, my face turned cold. When Lily and Scott left earlier, I had already sent a bodyguard to keep an eye on Lily. I knew Scott had bad intentions. With Lily's personality, if I tried to stop her forcefully, it would only make things worse. But now I had received a message from my bodyguard. I got into the car and once again showed off my impressive driving skills. Audrey, sitting in the passenger seat, was looking ahead with a panicked expression. Although she had driven fast cars because of missions, this was her first time riding in such a fast one. "Hey, there's someone ahead. You slowed down. The speed limit is 30, do you know that?" But no matter how much Audrey begged, I ignored her, even speeding up more. Soon, the car hit 160 kilometers per hour, and any faster wasn't possible. What should have been a 10-minute drive, I made it in just a few minutes. Xinglin Hotel. Here. Audrey froze for a moment, furrowing her brows, but she didn't say anything. I didn't stop and went straight to the Xinglin Hotel, heading to the room my bodyguard had sent me to. By the time I got there, my bodyguard had already subdued Scott. But Lily was still unconscious, lying on a bed. Her body was burning hot. Clearly, she had been drugged by Scott. I walked up to Scott and slapped him hard across the face. "You bastard. I knew you had bad intentions. Do you really think I just trust you to take Lily away?" Scott stared back at me, shocked that my men were this capable. "Kevin, so you know it's me, what now? The drug I gave Lily is the latest concoction," he laughed maniacally. No matter how pure a woman is, once she takes it, in less than half an hour, she'll become nothing but a bitch. Kevin, what can you do? If she doesn't get a man within 30 minutes, the fire of desire will burn her out, and in the end, she'll turn into an idiot. Seeing Scott like this, my anger boiled over, and I punched him square in the face. The punch was full of force, and it sent Scott crashing to the floor, spitting blood. Looking at him lying there, I didn't feel an ounce of pity. In fact, it didn't seem like enough. I gave a signal to my bodyguard. The bodyguard immediately dragged Scott into the bathroom, and the sound of his screams echoed through the place. Just then, Audrey arrived. When Audrey saw the situation in the room, her face immediately darkened with anger. This bastard, Kevin, now. Before Audrey could finish, I quickly grabbed a blanket and wrapped Lily up. This is on you now. Don't let this guy off easy. I'll go deal with Lily's situation. Without another word, I turned and left the room. Audrey watched my back and sighed helplessly. Lily's temperature was dangerously high. If what Scott said was true, there was no way we'd make it home in time. I had no choice but to book another room at the hotel. When the front desk saw me like this, they couldn't help but be confused. But as a receptionist, the most important thing is to keep your mouth shut. I entered the new room, glanced around, then laid Lily down on the bed. I filled the bathtub with cold water. Carefully, I carried Lily into the bathroom, anxiety and worry in my eyes. I placed her next to the bathtub, unbuttoned her jacket, and gently lowered her into the cold water, hoping to bring her fever down. The water splashed everywhere, but Lily's cheeks were still bright red. Her breathing was quick, and her body trembled slightly. "Lily, hold on," I whispered, my eyes full of worry. I gently dipped my hand into the water, feeling her still burning skin, and my anxiety grew even more. I knew Scott wasn't exaggerating. If I didn't fix this quickly, the consequences would be unimaginable. Lily was barely moving in the water, her face twisted in pain and helplessness. She muttered weakly, "Hot too hot." Her mind seemed to be drifting, her eyes losing focus as she instinctively squirmed, trying to escape the burning heat inside her body. Seeing her like this felt like 1,000 needles piercing my heart. I lifted my hand and gently stroked her cheek, my voice soft but tinged with desperation. "I'm sorry, Lily. I swear I'll save you." But the cold water didn't seem to help much. Lily's fever was still dangerously high, and her mind was becoming more and more clouded, her murmurs growing more incoherent. I furrowed my brows, knowing I had to make a decision. Scott's drug was hitting hard, and if I didn't act fast, things could get worse, much worse. "Lily, you have to hold on, don't give up," I whispered, trying to suppress the inner turmoil and the struggle I was feeling. I knew the choice I had to make next was going to be incredibly hard, and it could change everything between us. It might even break all the boundaries we had. Lily struggled again in the bathtub, suddenly reaching up and grabbing my sleeve. Her eyes were glazed, filled with confusion and desire. Her lips parted slightly, and in a trembling voice she whispered, "Kevin, help me." My heart skipped a beat. Hearing Lily's desperate, painful plea made my emotions even more complicated. At this moment, I knew she wasn't fully conscious, and her request was just a helpless reaction to the drug. But watching her in so much pain tore me apart. I clenched my fists, filled with anger and frustration. I hated Scott for what he did, and I hated myself for not protecting Lily sooner. But right now, I was the only one who could save her. Taking a deep breath, I tried to calm myself down. I lowered my head, speaking softly to her. "Lily, I'm sorry, really sorry." My fingers gently touched her face, trying to offer some comfort. But Lily instinctively grabbed my wrist, her eyes clouded with tears, breathing heavily. "Please, save me. It hurts so much." I carefully lifted her out of the water and laid her gently on the bed, wrapping her in a blanket, wiping the sweat from her forehead. I stared at her, my voice hoarse with self-blame. "Lily, I'll figure something out. I won't let anything happen to you." Lily let out a weak hum, her face flushed, clearly tortured by the drug. I gritted my teeth, pulled out my phone, and dialed Audrey's number. "Audrey, the drug's effect is getting worse. Do you know how to find an antidote?" On the other end of the line, Audrey's voice was filled with urgency. "I'll do my best to figure it out, but it might take some time. You just make sure to take care of Lily. Don't let anything happen to her." I hung up the phone and looked at Lily. Her breathing was becoming more rapid, her cheeks flushed from the fever, and her fingers clutched the sheets in a desperate grip, as though she were enduring unspeakable torment. My heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain almost suffocating. A chill ran through me, my fingers trembling slightly. I knew time was slipping away fast. The drug Scott had given her would only get stronger, and Lily's body was being consumed by an inferno of desire, on the verge of breaking down at any moment. "I'm sorry, Lily." I leaned closer to her, my emotions swirling. I kept telling myself to stay calm, to control my feelings, but looking at her helpless, tortured expression, my rationality was starting to crumble. Just then, there was a sharp knock on the door. I snapped out of my daze and quickly went to open it. Audrey rushed in, holding a small vial, her face tense. "This is the antidote I just found. You need to give it to her now." I took the vial from her, relief flooding through me. I hurried to give Lily the medicine. Gently lifting her, I whispered, "Lily, it'll be okay. Just hold on a little longer." Lily slowly swallowed the liquid, the pain on her face beginning to ease, her breathing steadying. She closed her eyes, as though finally getting a brief respite from the torment, her body relaxing and resting softly against me. That night, I couldn't sleep a wink. When morning came, Lily felt an overwhelming sense of exhaustion. She rubbed her bleary eyes and massaged her aching head. What happened? What did I do last night? She instinctively touched her chest, only to realize she was completely naked. Her face turned red instantly, and an uneasy thought crossed her mind. She remembered going out for dinner with Scott, but after just one drink, everything went blurry. I can't believe it, that bastard Scott. I won't let him get away with this. But just then, a figure turned over and lay on top of Lily. When she saw the person, Lily screamed. "Oh, Scott, you bastard. You're a fucking bastard." Poor me. I was still half asleep when someone woke me up with a shout. I yelled back, but then I noticed something weird. The voice sounded familiar, and I paused in my actions. Looking at the person, she saw that it wasn't Scott at all, but me. Kevin. Oh, thank God. I thought it was Scott. But suddenly, Lily felt something wasn't right. Kevin wasn't supposed to be here either. She was still naked. "Kevin, what did you do to me? You bastard. You took my mom, and now you want me to? Wait till I tell my mom about this. You bastard. I actually thought better of you." Facing Lily's barrage of questions, I couldn't help but feel a bit helpless. "Hey, come on, can you remember what you did last night?" Last night? Lily froze for a second, then slowly recalled what happened. The last thing she remembered was being led into a room by Scott, then being placed on the bed. After that, it seemed like someone took off her clothes and replaced them with something she didn't recognize. Just then, her eyes landed on something nearby. There, quietly lying, was a piece of lingerie. When she saw that, it all clicked for her. Geez, you really are too trusting. How could you think Scott was a good guy? Or did you really think you could outsmart a sly old fox like him? My words made Lily lower her head, unable to reply. She must have realized by now how close she came to disaster. "If it weren't for me, you probably would have. But what did you do to me? Even though you saved me, you can't just do that." If she had known from the start what I'd done, Lily might have felt some regret. But now thinking about how I stopped Gwyn from doing whatever he had planned for her, it wasn't as hard to accept. I gave her a glance. "Relax, I didn't do anything." "That lingerie? You took it off yourself while the drug's effect was still kicking in." "Well, as for me, if you knew what you did to me last night, you'd..." I didn't finish the sentence. Saying too much would probably just make me want to cry. Lily's face turned bright red at my words, and she stammered, I'm sorry, okay? Can I just apologize?" I sighed, not really bothered by it, just hoping she wouldn't cause more trouble. But just then, something caught my attention. Since I had spaced out for a moment, the blanket covering Lily slipped off, and, well, she wasn't wearing anything under it. When she noticed me staring, she quickly looked down at herself, and then screech came a sharp cry from her. By the time we left the hotel, it was already noon. In a way, this mess actually brought Lily and me closer. At least our relationship felt a little more relaxed than before. "Hey, how about calling me Dad, just for kicks?" The little bit of positive feeling I had built up for her quickly evaporated. Still, compared to other guys, I wasn't too bad, right? After all, I'm here with this beautiful woman. How could I ignore that? Back home, Lily was lying on the couch, replaying everything that happened the past 2 days in her head. She thought to herself, "Well, he's not that bad. At least he respects me. It's just him and my mom. That's something I can't get over." After a moment, she sighed and said to herself, "Forget it, whatever happens, happens. I can't control it anyway." Lily sighed deeply, her eyes closing as she mentally gave up on everything for a while. In her sleep, she felt like someone was holding her, but she couldn't figure out where she was being taken. Deep down, she hoped that person was Kevin. When she finally woke up the next day, her body felt heavy and disoriented. As her gaze wandered around the unfamiliar surroundings, confusion settled in. Wait, wasn't I asleep on the couch last night? How did I end up in a room? Her phone was still open on the alumni event page, but she couldn't make sense of how she got here. Stepping out of the room, she ran into me, who was busy cooking breakfast. The moment she saw me, everything clicked. Her face flushed with a mix of realization and embarrassment. "You're awake?" I asked casually. "You fell asleep on the couch, so I brought you to the room so you wouldn't catch a cold." Then I added, "By the way, you really need to work on your body management." "I didn't expect your weight to be like this." Lily froze for a moment, feeling her cheeks heat up. If only you hadn't added that last part, she thought. But at the same time, she figured since I was the one who brought her to the room, she'd let it slide today. Without waiting for her response, I turned and walked away. Watching me leave, Lily couldn't help but think, Kevin's actually not that bad. As for me, I was already on my way to D Group. With the launch event fast approaching, the entire company was buzzing with activity, each department scrambling to finalize everything for the big day. Julie and the team were sitting in a tense meeting room, discussing the latest developments. One employee reported, in the past few days, the group's lingerie sales have hit tens of millions, and their funds have surpassed $3 billion. We estimate that this number will continue to rise, and within about 7 days, it will reach its peak. Hearing this, Julie's face darkened with concern. We cannot afford to fall behind. We need to catch up with their advertising and promotions. Do you hear me? Everyone nodded in agreement, but just then, someone rushed in with alarming news. Bad news, Chairman, the actor we contracted suddenly decided to terminate the agreement. Julie immediately shot to her feet, fury flashing in her eyes. Terminate the contract? Why? Don't they fear the penalty fee? The employee gulped nervously. They said the penalty fee will be wired to our account, and they've already boarded the plane. They're probably in Shanghai by now. Julie's mind reeled. This was the last thing she had expected, complete curveball. At that moment, I walked in and noticed the troubled expressions on everyone's faces. I was confused at first. What's going on? Haven't eaten breakfast yet. I made it myself. Seeing me, the group didn't respond immediately, only sighing deeply. Our star didn't show up. Now there's no time to hire another one, someone muttered. I quickly pieced together what had happened. Hold on, babe, don't stress. I'll handle this. Without another word, I turned and rushed out of the room, ready to fix the situation. Seeing me run out, no one said anything, they just sighed helplessly. Although Kevin could bring the formula for the lingerie, it didn't mean he could solve their current urgent problem. Are we really going to fail in this fight? When I got to the break room, I immediately called Audrey. I quickly told her everything that had happened here. After listening, Audrey didn't hesitate and immediately agreed to help. As time passed, Julie's office was filled with sighs and complaints. They had used almost all their connections, but still couldn't find the right celebrity. Through the window, I saw Julie's worried face and couldn't help but feel a bit sorry for her. Meanwhile, downstairs at D Group, a Rolls-Royce pulled up at the entrance. A figure then got out of the car. Hello, this is... The security guard at the door tried to stop her, but when he saw who it was, his eyes went wide. As a top celebrity, Audrey definitely had her own connections. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm the one you've been talking to on the phone. I extended my hand as I spoke. When I returned to Julie's office, her mood had completely changed for the better. All the crises D Group was facing had been resolved. Julie was lying back in her chair, wearing a satisfied look on her face. I've been so good today. So, what are you going to reward me with? Julie opened her eyes, looked at me, and then gave me a mischievous smile. How about I let you experience something to die for tonight? Please, Lily's at home. No way. I sighed, realizing it had been a long time since I'd been close with Julie. When Lily was mentioned, Julie also sighed helplessly. Although Lily had gone to her room to sleep, Julie tried her best not to do anything too intimate around her, not wanting to upset her. And not to mention, I hadn't been home much lately. Hey, babe, I remember there's a room behind your office, right? As soon as I said that, a mischievous smile appeared on Julie's face. What here? The soundproofing isn't great, you know? I walked over to the door, locked it, and then pulled Julie into my arms. So what? No soundproofing means someone could walk in? Even if they did, they'd have to wait. With that, I lifted Julie up and carried her into the bedroom. It seemed that after not being intimate for a while, both of us were longing for each other's touch. For the first time, we both reached a perfect state. By the second time, it had only been 20 minutes, and I was already eager to continue. By the third time, Julie was begging me to stop. Kevin, if we keep going like this, I can't take it anymore. So what? If you can't get out, just leave it to me. I grinned and pulled her closer. Finally, I had won over my wife in bed again. I didn't know how much time had passed, but I could tell it was already getting late. Today's shoot is finally over. Now, it's up to the editor to work their magic on the photos and videos. Thanks, everyone. Kevin, I'll head off now. Audrey gave me a smile before getting into her car and leaving. But Julie didn't say anything. If I let other people's attraction to my man mess with my head, that'd just show a lack of confidence in myself. By the way, I got a little thing to take care of tonight. What's that? Julie looked at me with a puzzled expression. You didn't tell me about that. Oh, it's just a small thing. You go ahead and head home first. I'll leave now. With that, I dashed out quickly. Back at the villa, Lily was checking the time, but still hadn't called Kevin. Forget it. I'll just go to the alumni gathering myself. With that thought, Lily left the villa and called for a security guard to take her to the restaurant. The restaurant was called Imperial Dragon, a property under Sea Group. It's also one of the biggest and most luxurious restaurants in New York. A meal here would cost you at least $1,000, and for gatherings like the one Lily was attending, it would easily run into the thousands. Fortunately, she had a $10,000 prize from the last competition, so paying for this meal was more than enough. At the entrance of Imperial Dragon, Nikki was sitting on a chair. As soon as she saw Lily, she immediately stood up. Not just to greet Lily, but also to check out Kevin, whom she hadn't seen in a while. But when Nikki saw that Lily was alone, she was totally confused. Bella brought a half-blood guy from the Three Kingdoms. Don't you think he's going to laugh at you? You really think he's some great guy? Nikki shook her head, looking like she just couldn't believe it. It's probably nothing. Lily just smiled awkwardly. At that moment, a luxury Rolls-Royce pulled up at the entrance of Imperial Dragon. Two figures got out of the car. It was none other than Bella and her half-blood boyfriend from Three Kingdoms. I have to admit, mixed-race people do tend to look good. Hey, isn't that Lily, the beautiful Miss Shin? Why are you here all alone? Oh, I just remembered Miss Shin probably has too high standards. Did you not find anyone who's good enough for you? As she spoke, Bella glanced at her half-blood boyfriend. Lily frowned, wanting to argue back, but then realized it wouldn't really help. It felt like no matter what she said, it would just sound wrong. The thing is, she couldn't just leave at this point. If she did, people would have even more to talk about. Just then, an Alfa Romeo pulled up at the entrance of Imperial Dragon. A figure stepped out of the car. Lily, sorry I'm late. Under everyone's gaze, I slowly walked up to Lily and took her hand. At that moment, it felt like a prince was stepping up to his princess. Sorry, something came up at work, which is why I'm late. When Bella saw me, her eyes went wide. What? It's you. Kevin. Back in college, Bella and I knew each other. In fact, at the start, Bella had even tried to pursue me. But back then, I was only interested in Lily. So I ignored Bella. The reason Bella didn't get along with Lily was because of me. Didn't expect to see you again, huh? I gave Bella a slight smile, once again hitting her right in the feels. Back then, Bella admired my looks, which is why she tried to pursue me. But over time, her horizons expanded, and she got to know a lot of handsome guys. The one she was most satisfied with was her current boyfriend, Lawrence, a mixed-race guy from the Three Kingdoms. She thought Lawrence's looks and charm were enough to outshine a freshly graduated Kevin. But what she didn't expect was that in terms of both looks and charm, I was just as good as Lawrence. And in terms of height, I had a clear advantage. I'm 185 centimeters, while Lawrence is only 180 centimeters. Even our bodies, though we both work out regularly, clearly showed Lawrence's shortcomings. All right, enough standing outside. Let's go in. I smiled at Lily and then took her inside the Imperial Dragon. Nikki followed behind us, looking at me with a surprised expression. She'd seen me before, but it felt like I was somehow different this time. When we reached the front desk, I took out a black card from my pocket. This should be the membership card. Asked the boss to have it sent to the private room later. The receptionist nodded and took the card. After we left, the receptionist called the boss over. When the boss saw the card, his mouth dropped open in shock. Which room are they in? Bella watched as Lily and I walked away, a jealous look crossing her face. From the look on your face just now, was that guy your ex? Foreigners tend to be pretty direct, and she immediately hit the nail on the head. Bella shot Lawrence a glare. What are you saying? He's just a senior of mine. How could he possibly be my ex? But as she said that, Bella couldn't help but feel a little disappointed inside. If that really was her ex, it didn't seem like such a bad thing after all. Let's go. I refuse to believe that my current boyfriend isn't better than him. By the way, call the manager. My boyfriend is definitely the best. With that, Bella gave a little humph and pulled Lawrence's hand as they entered the restaurant. Inside the private room, everyone was a bit surprised to see me. Back in the day, when I was in a band with some club members, I had tons of little fangirls. At that moment, Bella and Lawrence also walked in. Hey, Bella, when did you get here? You're kind of late, huh? Bella huffed. He's Lawrence, mixed race from the Three Kingdoms, and he works at an international trade company. When they heard that, everyone's faces showed surprise. Whenever Bella talked about her boyfriend, a confident smile would appear on her face. We've already agreed, once I graduate, we'll get engaged. And once I'm settled in my job, we'll get married. While the others were still thinking about getting through college and figuring out how to land a job after graduation, she was already planning engagement and marriage. It's amazing how different people's life plans can be. By the way, Bella, what's the name of the company? Someone suddenly asked. Bella seemed like she'd been waiting for that question and quickly replied, "It's C Group." You guys must have heard of it. As soon as they heard C Group, everyone's faces showed more surprise. At that point, Bella glanced at Lily. "Lily, don't you think so?" Lily already figured Bella would use this opportunity to tease her, so when Bella asked, she just gave a faint smile. "If you say so, I'm sure it's fine. You like it, right?" Even though Kevin is still. Before Lily could finish, a knock on the door was heard, and a man in a suit walked in. "Hello, everyone. I'm the manager of this restaurant and also a good friend of Mr. Lawrence. Knowing Mr. Lawrence was dining here, we've specially gifted a bottle of Magic Windmill red wine, and we're also offering 3 dishes worth 1,000 each. We hope you'll enjoy them." Hearing this, everyone's faces lit up with surprise. With all eyes on her, Bella couldn't help but show a smug look on her face. But to her disappointment, my expression remained calm, as if I didn't feel anything at all. "She's definitely trying to act tough. Humph, I don't believe for a second that you're not feeling anything," Bella muttered, then leaned against Lawrence. Lawrence then turned his attention to me. "Look, no matter what happened between you and Bella before, I just want to make it clear, Bella is mine. I'm going to be the guy who stays with her longer than any of her exes." I don't know if it was the way Lawrence said it, but the way everyone reacted made the whole situation feel a little awkward. I looked at Lawrence, then gave him a calm smile. "It's a good mindset. I genuinely wish you both the best, really." Hearing this, it seemed like Bella's heart had been pierced by something sharp. Lily felt the same way, since she knew I didn't really belong to her. Everyone quickly changed the subject, trying to avoid making things worse. The mood around the dinner table lightened as people chatted and laughed, talking about all sorts of things. "The food's great today. We should definitely do this again next time," I said, raising my glass with a smile. Everyone cheered in agreement, laughter filling the room. Lily's mood lightened a bit too, thanks to everyone's enthusiasm. She held her glass, quietly stealing a glance at me. I was laughing and chatting with friends, and Lily felt a little warmth in her heart. Late into the night, without realizing it, everyone started heading out. Lily had drunk a little too much. After saying our goodbyes, I walked Lily home. We stumbled into the dark house, our steps unsteady, but her eyes, lit up by the alcohol, held a certain fiery intensity. Our breaths mingled as we drew closer, and in that moment, we completely lost our sense of control. I looked down at her, emotions flickering in my eyes that I couldn't hide. Gently, I caressed her face, my voice low and rough. "Lily." Lily tilted her head up, her gaze a mix of confusion and longing. She couldn't control herself, swept away by the rush of emotions, and leaned in, kissing me first. We embraced tightly, the kiss charged with intense emotions and a long-suppressed desire. It felt like, in that instant, the whole world faded away, leaving only the two of us. All the noise and complications vanished. Lily instinctively wrapped her arms around my neck, matching my passion and fire. In the darkness, the room felt like our own little world. The alcohol blurred everything, making it all feel both hazy and alluring. A breeze came in through the slightly open window, the cool air making Lily blink, slightly clearing her mind. Her breath slowly steadied, but the turbulence inside her still hadn't calmed. She opened her eyes just enough to see my face so close to hers, the warmth of the alcohol still rushing through her veins, quickening her pulse. I gently stroked her cheek, my gaze soft but filled with deep, complex emotions. I brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, whispering, "Lily, Lily looked at me, her eyes slightly red. Suddenly, a wave of emotion surged inside her, something between frustration and helplessness. She gently pushed me away, avoiding my gaze as her voice trembled. "Kevin, are we too drunk?" I froze for a second, then nodded, giving a wry smile as I took a step back. I rubbed my forehead hard, trying to shake off the fog. "Yeah, we both had a bit too much to drink." The distance between us suddenly grew, and even though the air still held traces of the heat from earlier, our hearts were cooling down. Lily took a deep breath, trying to clear her thoughts, but her mind was still tangled in the confusion and intensity of what had just happened. I reached out to her, but hesitated, eventually pulling my hand back. I forced a smile. "You should rest." I'll go make some tea, try to sober up." Lily nodded quietly, lowering her head as she quickly walked toward her room. Her back looked hurried, almost panicked. As soon as she closed the door behind her, she leaned against it, tears unknowingly welling up in her eyes. Later that night, Julie and I lay in bed. "Babe, let's have a baby." Those words made Julie's face flush deep red. Even though she had told me before that she could still have kids, actually bringing it up made her nervous and uneasy. But despite the nerves, despite the uncertainty, Julie nodded. That night, we held each other close. It felt like everything was so perfectly in sync, like everything was just right. We felt the rhythm of each other's breath, the way our bodies and souls seemed to connect, reaching a level of unity that felt almost transcendent. When everything reached its peak, lying in bed and staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but smile, breathless but still holding hands. That night, I gave it my all, almost as if I was trying to forget something. Meanwhile, Lily, sleeping in the next room, had made a decision in her heart as well. The next morning, Julie woke up beside me. She sat up, her eyes still a little blurry, and looked at me. "Honey, you were really worn out last night. Does this mean I won?" she teased. Hearing that, I, as the man, couldn't admit defeat. "Come on, no way. Watch me handle you." With that, I pinned Julie back on the bed. Another round of passionate, intense fun followed, before we finally started getting ready to clean up. Julie suddenly grabbed my ear, smiling brightly at me. "Oh, Kevin, since you're so good in the kitchen, how about making me some breakfast? I'm starving." "You? Aren't you going to work today?" "Of course not. I'm taking some much-needed time off to relax." Julie put her feet on my shoulder, her face showing a mischievous grin. "Hey, I'm the boss. I think I deserve a honeymoon break, don't you?" It was only then that I noticed Julie was wearing black stockings. I swallowed hard and quickly ran to the kitchen to make her breakfast. After all, with a full stomach, we could get to the serious stuff, right? Later, we had another round of fun, but once again, I came out on top. That day, Julie went to the office for some business discussions. As for me, I became a bit of a bum, just lounging around the house all day. I thought I'd have a peaceful, lazy day to myself, but then I heard a series of beeping sounds from downstairs. I stuck my head out and saw a white Porsche Cayenne parked right outside. The roof was open, and a woman's figure emerged. She looked up, saw me, and gave me a smile that was almost too happy to be real. But when I saw who it was, I couldn't help but frown. Lily. I have to admit, I'm a bit afraid of Lily. After all, Lily's one of those people I just can't figure out, and not even the system seems to understand her. "What's wrong?" "Daddy, do you want me to come up and get you instead?" she teased. After thinking for a second, I jumped straight from the upstairs and landed right in front of her. "Whoa, that's quite the entrance," she laughed. "Daddy, want to go to the beach with me?" "You're not scared, are you?" Seeing Lily's teasing, seductive expression, even I was starting to lose my resolve. "To the beach? Just you and me? Are you sure about that?" I raised an eyebrow and glanced at the swimwear in the back of the car. "Well, in that case, let's go," I said. I got into Lily's car, and we headed straight to the beach in the city. When we arrived at the beach, there were handsome men and beautiful women everywhere. As soon as we stepped onto the sand, it was like walking into a scene from a movie. People in bikinis, perfect bodies, fair skin. It was hard not to stare. But the moment Lily stepped onto the beach, she instantly became the center of attention. Even with a beautiful woman by my side, I couldn't shake the feeling of boredom. But soon, everyone's eyes turned with obvious hostility toward the guy standing next to her. Why isn't she with me? He's not even that good looking. Seriously, this guy must have hit the jackpot, getting noticed by such a beauty. If it were me, I'd gladly spend a night with someone like her. Just one night, I'd be happy. Standing next to Lily, even I couldn't help but feel the pressure. I'm pretty confident when it comes to my looks, but in front of Lily, I felt like I'd lost that confidence. I had to admit, Lily was the only woman I'd ever met who could outshine Julie. Lying on the beach chair, Lily gave me a mischievous smile. "Daddy, want to help me put on some sunscreen? It's really slippery." Looking at the sunscreen in front of me, I couldn't help but pout, then shoved it aside. You can do it yourself." What I didn't realize was that my move had attracted a lot of intense stares from nearby guys. At that moment, one guy with a bit more courage walked right up to Lily and me. "Hey, beautiful, how about I help you with that sunscreen?" Lily glanced up and down at the guy, then smiled lightly. "You think you're better than him in any way? If you're not as good as him, you don't deserve it." Hearing this, the guy turned his gaze to me, his face filled with obvious challenge. "Kid, let's see if you're up for a challenge." I rolled my eyes at him, not even bothering to acknowledge the guy. Then I turned to look at Lily. Lily, however, looked at me with a teasing smile. I couldn't help but feel like going out with Lily wasn't such a great idea. But thankfully, nothing too crazy happened after that. The waves were crashing in with full force, but there were still tons of enthusiasts out there, riding the surf. When Lily and I got to the surf spot, a staff member shouted loudly, "Attention, everyone! The surfing competition is about to begin. We'll be scoring based on your performance, and the top winner will get a special prize." He pointed towards a prize table, where a pink Volkswagen Beetle was displayed. Seeing the car, the crowd got excited. I wasn't really interested in the prize, but Lily was totally drawn to that color. She flashed me a mischievous grin, and then linked her arm through mine. "Daddy, I like it. You're gonna get it for me, right?" I gave her a look, completely speechless, and sighed. "Why did I even come out with you today?" Lily grinned, stood on her toes, and whispered in my ear, "If you help me get that beetle, I'll reward you later." So I ended up joining the surfing competition. A big wave came crashing in, and all the contestants tried to stand up on their boards to ride the wave. But just then, someone walked right across the wave. When people on the beach saw this, they were all shocked. I stood on my surfboard, watching everyone below me, giving my board a strong push. To my surprise, the board actually flew up in the air, then landed perfectly back on the sand. Honestly, the beetle didn't mean much to either Lily or me, but the feeling of winning was something special. Holding the car key, I tossed it to Lily. "Hey, not bad. It's way better than I expected." Lily didn't have much faith in me at first. She just wanted to see if I'd actually compete for her. She never imagined I'd join the contest and even win. After that, Lily started seeing me in a new light. By noon, after lunch, we returned to the beach. The beach had lost its energy, and everyone was now resting under umbrellas. But Lily leaned in close and whispered, "Come with me. I got a reward for you." Honestly, I planned to refuse the reward, but Lily insisted. So I followed her to a quiet little hill where no one was around. Once we were sure no one was around, Lily's face lit up with a mischievous grin as she plopped down on a rock. "Dad, you can do whatever you want with me, you know," she said, her tone dripping with playful teasing. I glanced at her, taking in her appearance. At 168 centimeters tall, Lily's legs were undeniably long and shapely. When she was fully dressed, it wasn't as obvious, but now in her bikini, it was impossible to miss. Still, as tempting as Lily was, I prided myself on being a man of principle. "Lily, do you not realize I'm your dad?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know," she replied, her smile turning sly. "But you having a wife doesn't mean something can't happen between us, right?" As she spoke, she slowly closed the distance between us and grabbed my hand. "Besides, if I don't say anything, no one will ever know," she whispered, her voice low and seductive. I'll admit, Lily's charm was overwhelming. Even I, with all my self-control, felt my resolve waver. That brief physical contact alone was enough to send a rush of heat through me. "Ahem, let's not go there, missed your way out of my league," I said, forcing myself to take a few steps back and suppress the rising desire. By evening, we were ready to leave the beach. After changing back into our regular clothes, we got into the car and headed toward the heart of the city. But as we drove, a few supercars pulled up alongside us. "Hey, beautiful, nice ride. How much did it cost?" One of the drivers called out, his tone cocky. Lily shot me a helpless look, clearly annoyed by the attention. This is the downside of going out with a beauty like you. What do you want me to do about it?" I said, shrugging. I wasn't planning on engaging with them, but then another voice chimed in. "Hey, what's the matter? Can't handle her? If you can't, why not let us take her off your hands?" That did it. My competitive streak kicked in, and I couldn't just let that slide. In one swift motion, I unbuckled Lily's seatbelt, slid my hand under her, and lifted her up. Before she could react, I shifted positions, sliding underneath her and taking her place in the driver's seat. The whole move was so smooth that even Lily was caught off guard. By the time she realized what was happening, she was already sitting on my lap. Hey, what are you doing?" Lily panicked, her voice rising as she squirmed in my grip. I just smirked. "They want to play? Fine, I'll give them a show." With that, I slammed my foot on the accelerator, and the Porsche shot forward like an arrow. "Whoa, what the hell? This guy's insane," one of the drivers behind us shouted. Not wanting to be left behind, the other supercars quickly sped up, trying to keep pace with us. Meanwhile, Lily was desperately trying to climb back into the passenger seat, but the tight space made it impossible. She was stuck sitting on my lap, her face a mix of shock and embarrassment. To make matters worse, this position gave her a front row seat to the sheer speed of the car. Even Lily, who was usually calm under pressure, couldn't help but feel a wave of nervousness as the scenery blurred past us. Maybe you should slow down a bit." "Oh my God, why are you driving so fast?" she yelled, her hands gripping the dashboard for dear life. "Not bad, but this isn't even the fastest. It can go way faster," I said, stepping on the gas. The car shot up to 200 miles per hour. The road around me blurred like a slideshow, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The visibility up ahead was low, and I knew we could run into trouble at any moment. Seeing me go so fast, the cars behind me quickly started speeding up too. "If I can pass you, I'll retire for good," one of them said, and then he floored the accelerator, pulling up next to me. As we approached a turn, he tried to use the corner to pass me. But I wasn't having it. I drifted, squeezing him off the road. A cloud of smoke puffed up, and his car shot off into the grass. I flashed a faint smile, then kept racing down the road. Meanwhile, back at the police station, they got a tip about the street race. They still think they can race? Those punks don't know when to stop, Jolly muttered as she sent out officers to catch them. Soon, we could hear sirens wailing behind us. Wait, how did the police get wind of this so fast? What's going on? One of them asked. Who cares? If we get caught, my dad's gonna kill me, another one said. We gotta get out of here fast. Damn, Zhongli's crazy. I don't want to mess with her, someone else shouted. What started as a race for speed quickly turned into a full-blown escape. I could hear the sirens too. Oh, what if we get caught? Lily's face tightened with worry. If we get caught, just say it was you driving. I'll just hop into the passenger seat, no big deal, I said, which made Lily absolutely furious. She sat down right in front of me, her lips brushing my ear as she whispered, Dad, do you think I'm pretty? Do you want me to help you with anything? It's just the two of us after all. She giggled. Hey, look at me, come on, look at me. I swallowed hard. Suddenly, I understood why King Zhou was so obsessed with Dodgy. How could anyone not fall for this? Who could resist? Lily slowly reached out and hooked her arm around mine. Dad, don't you think I'm pretty? Don't you like me? Feeling her warmth against me, I had to force myself to keep my cool, trying to suppress the fire inside. But this kind of thing, it wasn't something you could just control. Just as Lily was about to say something else, we reached an intersection up ahead. At the intersection, there were tons of cars waiting. I shot Lily a glance, then looked around. Next to us was a massive mountain. It was tall, but the slope was pretty gentle. Without thinking much, I steered the car straight toward it. In that moment, Lily felt like her whole body was about to slam into the window. With everyone staring in shock, my Porsche drove right up the side of the mountain. After a moment, I pulled the car into a quiet, open field. We got out, and Lily stretched, yawning. Wow, Dad, you're amazing. I didn't know your driving skills were this good. I just gave a small smile, not saying much. Well, looks like we won't be heading back tonight. Every road back is blocked up. We'll have to wait until tomorrow morning. So the two of us sat in the car, gazing at the stars in the sky and chatting away. Maybe it was the quiet surroundings, but we ended up talking more and more, getting more into the conversation. Neither of us probably realized it, but in that moment, our bond was growing stronger. I leaned in slightly, my gaze soft but full of meaning, like I was searching for something in her eyes. My voice was low, almost a whisper, like I didn't want to disturb the quiet night around us. Lily, you know, there's something I've been wanting to say for a while, but I never really found the right moment. Lily's heart skipped a beat. She felt me get closer, and her cheeks turned warm. You want to say something? Her voice trembled slightly, and even she could tell how nervous she was. I looked at her, my eyes soft but deep. Sometimes I'm just so grateful to have you here with me. Even now, just sitting here talking, it feels enough. Kevin, she whispered, her breath quickening. Lily, I said her name softly, my voice shaky and unsure, like I was testing the waters. I gently traced my finger along her cheek, careful and tender, as if afraid to hurt her. My finger brushed her ear, and she shivered, her mind racing. Am I going too far? I suddenly asked in a low voice, a gentle smile tugging at my lips. It felt like I was teasing her, but it was more like I was trying to understand her, to see where she stood. Lily bit her lip, her eyes showing a moment of hesitation, but then we softened, filled with a quiet yearning. She shook her head lightly and whispered, No. Those two simple words felt like a barrier breaking, and I gently slid my hand around her waist, pulling her into my arms. Lily closed her eyes, feeling the warmth from my embrace, and all the emotions she'd been holding back for so long finally spilled out, silently, in that moment. The next morning, Lily and I were suddenly woken up by the sound of a phone ringing. I answered it, and Julie's voice came through. Kevin, you guys okay? You were out so late last night. Did you make it home all right? I snapped out of my grogginess, glancing over at Lily, who was still asleep beside me, looking peaceful. I took a deep breath and tried to sound calm. Yeah, we're fine. There was just some traffic, so we got delayed a bit. But don't worry. On the other end, Julie seemed relieved. Her voice lightened. Okay, that's good. By the way, I got some things to handle today and might be back late. Just make sure you take care of yourself and Lily. I nodded, hung up, and drove home. After getting in, I made breakfast for Lily. As I watched her enjoying her meal, a little sauce lingered at the corner of her mouth, and I couldn't help but smile and kiss it away. We ended up kissing our way from the kitchen to the couch, lost in the moment. Just as things were getting heated, the sound of a door opening froze everything. Julie walked in, and the atmosphere immediately turned cold. The shopping bags scattered by the door, and the look of shock and hurt on her face made the whole situation feel like a slap in the face. Lily and I froze, staring at each other in panic. We quickly pulled apart from the couch, our faces full of guilt and confusion. Julie, my voice was hoarse, thick with regret and panic. I stood up, wanting to go to her and explain, but I knew that no explanation could fix this right now. Julie covered her mouth, tears falling like pearls, one after another. Her eyes were filled with disbelief and heartbreak, as if the man she loved and trusted, and Lily, the girl she treated like her own daughter, had suddenly become strangers. Why? Julie's voice shook as she tried to hold back her emotions, but the tears kept flowing, blurring her vision. How could you? How could you do this? With that, she stumbled out of the house. I quickly grabbed my coat and ran after her. The air felt thick with tension, and my heart was pounding in my chest. I knew Julie needed space to calm down, but I also knew she shouldn't face this alone. I reached the parking lot and spotted Julie standing there. I walked up to her, my voice soft as I called her name, Julie. She looked up, exhaustion and distrust in her eyes. When she saw me, her tears started falling again. You came. Her voice was low and trembling, like she couldn't believe I was really there. It felt like a knife to my heart. I crouched down in front of her and took her hands, my voice full of regret. Julie, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you like this. I looked into her eyes, and the pain in us was almost unbearable. She lowered her head, silent tears streaming down her face. Her voice choked as she spoke. I don't understand. Why did this happen? You were the one person I trusted most. And Lily, she's like my daughter. I never thought you both would hurt me like this. I reached out, gently running my fingers through her hair, trying to soften my voice. Julie, I know there's no way to explain this in one simple sentence. Maybe you'll never fully understand the pain and confusion I'm going through. I lowered my head and kissed the tear on her cheek, my voice barely above a whisper. But please believe me, I never wanted to hurt you. Julie looked up at me, her eyes filled with confusion, but also a deep sense of attachment. I met her gaze, my eyes full of sincerity. I leaned down and gently kissed her forehead, pulling her softly into my arms. Julie, I'm going to do everything I can to make this right. I'll make you believe in me again, and in what we have. She melted into my embrace, and for a moment, the pain in her heart seemed to ease just a little. She whispered, "It hurts. It really hurts. I don't understand why this happened, why you both didn't tell me the truth." I held her tighter, my voice soft and comforting. I know it's hard, but we have to face it together." Julie's tears began to slow, and she lifted her head to look at me. Her voice barely a whisper, she said, "I don't want to lose you, Kevin. No matter what happens, I just want you to be by my side." A smile tugged at the corners of my mouth, and I nodded gently. "I will. I'll always be by your side until you can trust me again." My breath quickened, and I could feel her breath getting closer. It was like I could hear both of our hearts racing. No matter how much Julie questioned me, I couldn't suppress my desire for her. "Julie, I can't explain it. All I can say is, I love you." Then, without another word, I kissed her deep and urgent, my lips crashing onto hers. The kiss was filled with long-suppressed desire. My hands gripped her waist tightly, pulling her mercilessly close to me. Julie didn't resist. Instead, she leaned into it, her lips tangling with mine in a mix of anger, pain, longing, and struggle. A familiar warmth surged through her chest, something she hadn't felt in so long, and it left her utterly powerless to pull away. My hands slowly slid down her back, my fingers tracing her skin with an eager, almost desperate heat. Julie's body trembled slightly as the wave of desire crashed over her, setting every nerve in her body on fire. She clung to my shoulders, her lips reluctantly breaking away from mine as she gasped, "Kevin, don't stop." Her words sent a jolt through me. I took a deep breath, pulling her even closer, as if I wanted to merge her into my very being. My kisses grew fiercer, more possessive, fueled by an uncontrollable need. Our bodies pressed together tightly, every touch sending our hearts racing faster. Julie's hands gently climbed up my back, her breathing growing ragged. A voice in her head warned her that there was no turning back, but another voice, louder and more insistent, drowned it out with a thrill of something she hadn't felt in years. She closed her eyes and whispered softly, "Kevin, I need you." My chest heaved as I heard Julie's whisper, my gaze growing even more intense. I leaned down again, pulling her tightly into my arms, feeling every tremble and reaction of her body. When we returned home, Julie and I walked in hand. Though we had regained trust in each other after the emotional whirlwind outside, the air inside the house was still thick with unspoken tension. Neither mother nor daughter spoke immediately, the atmosphere heavy and complicated. "Mom, Lily finally broke the silence, her voice trembling. "I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have done what I did, but when I saw you and Kevin, I felt so conflicted." Julie sighed and walked over to sit beside her, gently taking her hand. "Lily, I understand your unease. I also know it must have been hard for you to see us reconcile. After all, you've always been the most important person in my life, and Kevin, his sudden appearance in our lives has brought so many changes." Lily didn't look up, but tears glistened in her eyes. "But Mom, what am I supposed to do? I've always thought Kevin was someone we couldn't rely on, but now that you've made up, I feel like I can't let him go. I even feel like I don't have the strength to break away from him anymore." Julie paused, her expression complicated. "Lily, to be honest, I feel the same way." She took a deep breath, as if making a difficult decision. "I can't completely remove Kevin from our lives either. He's given me so much warmth, and he's made me realize I can't keep shutting myself off. Even you, Lily, I've started to depend on him too. I've started to not want to let him go." Lily's eyes widened in shock, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Mom, you too?" Her voice trembled, filled with disbelief. "Mom, you're right," Lily said slowly, lifting her head. Her eyes showed a mix of emotions. "I can't live without him either. No matter how much we struggle, we just can't cut Kevin out of our lives." Julie hugged her tightly. "I don't want to lose you, Lily. We're family." Lily looked down, her heart filled with confusion. "But if we both accept Kevin, what does that make us? Are we still just mother and daughter, or have things between the three of us become something that's hard to define?" Julie paused for a moment, then let out a soft sigh. "I think the truth is, there's no clear answer to this kind of relationship anymore. The feelings we have for Kevin are real, and we can't ignore us. Whether it's you or me, he's already in our hearts, and we're both tangled up in this emotional whirlwind. So what do we do now?" Lily asked, her voice urgent. The unease inside her made it hard to stay calm. Is this really the right way? If Kevin has to choose in the end, how are you and I supposed to deal with that? Julie's expression turned serious. She gently lifted Lily's chin, looking her in the eye. "Lily, who says we can only choose one? We both love Kevin, and we both want to be with him. Maybe it's time we try to accept this new way of being together and figure out how to make the three of us work." Lily froze, her heart suddenly racing. The reality she had been avoiding was now right there, spoken out loud by her mom. She never imagined things would end up like this, her and her mom, in a way, both silently accepting Kevin as the emotional link between us. "Our relationship, the three of us, doesn't need anyone else to define it," Julie said softly. "This is our choice, the path we want to take." Just then, a soft knock came from the door, and my voice floated in from the other side. "Julie, Lily, can I come in?" The two of us exchanged a look. Lily took a deep breath, stood up, and walked toward the door to open it. I stood outside watching us, my eyes full of anticipation but also a bit of uncertainty. "What are you talking about?" My voice was low, but it carried a tone of gentle concern. Lily stepped forward and gently took my hand, her eyes showing a mix of determination and relief. "We were talking about our future, Kevin. About the future of the three of us." I froze, a look of surprise and warmth crossing my face. I lowered my head and squeezed Lily's hand tightly, then turned to Julie, my eyes full of tenderness. "Julie, Lily, I'm willing to walk this path with you, no matter how complicated the future might get." And then, the three of us embraced, our kiss filled with emotion and excitement. The kiss was a chaotic mix of cold tears and burning passion, the three of us caught in a whirlwind of emotions that seemed to erase all the pain of the past in an instant. Julie's fingers tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, our bodies pressed together so tightly that every inch of contact sent our hearts racing. My hand slid down Lily's back, gripping her waist firmly, feeling her heartbeat quicken under my touch. My breathing grew heavy, edged with a wild, desperate heat. I could no longer hold back the longing and ache inside me. The world around us faded away, leaving only the sensation of our lips, our bodies, and the raw, undeniable truth of our connection. The kiss deepened, my hands roaming over our bodies with a fiery touch that ignited a deep primal need in both of us. Julie let out a low, shuddering breath in my arms, while Lily slowly sank to her knees, her fingers trembling as we reached for my belt. Julie's head fell back, a gasp escaping her lips as my mouth trailed down her neck, my teeth grazing her skin in a way that sent shivers down her spine. Lily's hands tangled in her mother's hair, her own lips finding my shoulder, biting down gently as if to claim me as hers. The heat between us was unbearable, a wildfire that threatened to consume us all. Clothes were discarded in a frenzy, our hands and lips exploring every inch of skin, every curve and scar, as if memorizing each other all over again. Kevin, Lily moaned, her voice trembling with need as she pressed herself against me, her body trembling with the intensity of her desire. Please. I didn't need to be asked twice. With a growl, I lifted her effortlessly, her legs wrapping around my waist as I carried her to the bed, Julie following close behind. The three of us fell together in a tangle of limbs and heated kisses, our bodies moving in perfect sync, as if we had been made for this moment. The room was filled with the sound of our passion, soft gasps, low moans, and the occasional cry of pleasure. It was raw, unfiltered, and utterly consuming. Every touch, every kiss, every whispered word was a promise to stay, to fight, to love, no matter what the future held. And as we reached the peak of our shared ecstasy, our cries mingling in the air, we knew that this was more than just passion. It was a reckoning, a declaration, a bond that could never be broken. Together, we were unstoppable. Together, we were whole. Welcome to subscribe to Sunshine Talk Anime for more exciting stories.